I'm supposedly live. I'm live. I'm live. Just checking what happened to DAGO. I went into a stream a minute ago and said something about some violation. Anyway, there's no one in here but me. So I'll chill for a minute, see if people catch up that the stream is on there. DAGO, DAGO, DAGO. DAGO, DAGO. Let's see here. Where does it show? I don't know why it doesn't show that screen. Anyway, we shall see. I'll wait a minute, but it looked like he was knocked out of the box for some reason. What could he have possibly done? I stopped playing intro music because they started flagging me for the intro music, which I found on a site that allows you to use it for free. Apparently someone changed their mind on that one. Just kind of stupid. Supposedly it's, I don't even know, copyrighted content or some shit. I don't know. But anybody coming in? What happened to DAGO? Where's DAGO? Oh, DAGO. DAGO, are you here, DAGO? I will put a link down here. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. Copy. Oh, quit with these advertisements. I'm not giving you guys any more money. I'm done with giving you money, StreamYard. You could discontinue me at your will. Anyway, 4 people in here. What happened to DAGO? Who knows? Who knows what happened to True Crime Cafe with DAGO? Anyone know? Anybody know? So now there's 6 in you. 6 of you. There were like 40 something in DAGOs. Stealing the scream. Anybody know what happened? Oh, come on. Let's get with it. Your fingers work. You love to type. Let's hear it. All kinds of crazy stuff. Now there's 8 in here. Hi, all. Is my mic working? Can you hear me? Let's see here. Yeah, that mic isn't that good, though, is it? Huh, maybe I ought to change its name to Bob. Yep, people can hear me. What happened to DAGO? Why was True Crime Cafe knocked out of the box? That's some kind of violation. What kind of criminal did DAGO become tonight? Does anybody know? Jeez. Always knew that guy was hanging by a string. What the hell did he do? Anybody know? Contact DAGO. Tell him, get his ass up here. He could say what he wants. He could do a stream in here. I don't mind. I got nothing going. I was out with a race car. There was no one out there. Minivans pulling up you want in the race. That's just nonsense. I must have missed it. Yeah, I went on to a stream and there was a message on the stream saying some violation of policy or who knows, man. These left-wing losers that run these sites, these social media sites, they should be they should all be like, I don't even know. I don't know. Something nice done with them now. But just to keep them the hell away from social media, making all these stupid rules, telling you what words you can use and can't use. Oh, he was doing music. Yeah, man, that's like a federal offense. That'll get you like, I don't even know how long in YouTube jail. Yep, now he's a jailbird. Once again, they go serving time. I don't know how that works, but I think you got to, I don't even know. He's probably already back. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I figured I'd open up my stream, and then if he needed a place to come in, he could come in. But he was doing music, huh? Yeah, he was a guitar player or something, from what I think, from what I remember. Poor DAGO. DAGO got dogged. He'll be fine. Oh, they're using, well, okay. Well, I figured I just noticed it. And so, you know, being the nice guy Sarge is, he figured he would open up a stream for him, the place to come in and say what he had to say. But if he's playing music, you know, I don't know. I don't want him coming in here and getting me knocked out of the box, too. He was a drummer. Boy, that's awesome. Alicia, I know it's like I'm the only one that knows how nice I am. It's a big secret. Did I put even Idaho 4 in here? Yeah, I did. Idaho 4. What happened to DAGO? True Crime Cafe. I really don't have much to say about the Idaho 4, really. If he appeals, then I'll be eagerly attentive to the Idaho 4 case. But until he appeals, I don't know. He said he did it, and to be very honest with you, I figure he did it. That's because he said he did it. No, I don't know. I got more evidence to argue he did it because he said he did it. That's all I can say. Until he says he didn't do it, or he starts filing appeals against the people that apparently unlawfully arrested him, lied to obtain warrants to obtain no evidence. That's the best part about the warrants. They not only lied to arrest this guy, but then that arrest warrant was a lie. It was full of lies, and that warrant used to solidify the application for other warrants that netted no evidence. How you like them apples? Talk about Keystone Cops. These guys probably couldn't wipe their own ass if their hands were attached to their fucking legs. They still wouldn't be able to do it. I don't think there'd be any way for any of these policemen in fucking Idaho, from the state police to the fucking Idaho MPD or whatever the fuck they call themselves. These guys couldn't tell the truth if they had a nuclear missile sitting next to them and somebody standing there with a button. They still wouldn't know how to tell the truth. Oh, yeah, he was driving around and he went down this way. No, you know he didn't go that way, you liar. It's just kind of fucked up what they did here. I think it's humorous in a way, only because, you know, if you can't find humor in stuff, you're going to go crazy. Or maybe finding humor in tragedy is crazy. But either way, I still find it rather fucking humorous. It just, how inept those people were. How inept the judges are. How lazy these people are. How stupid these people are. I mean, for fuck's sakes. Like, let's make up a story, okay, and then we'll go get some warrants. Well, I don't know if he actually committed the crime, and I don't even care if he did or not. What I care about is that you don't need to lie to get a warrant. I mean, Brian was the best suspect that just came out of like fucking left field. These people had the best suspect in the world, but they didn't do what they should have done. They immediately ran for an arrest warrant on false information that they undeniably knew was false. And they arrested the guy for burglary and 4 counts of homicide. I mean, that was just the stupidest fucking thing. They didn't need to do that. They would have got their man eventually if he's the man. But fucking blurry pictures. It's like the fucking, I don't even know. It's like the old 1970 bank robber cameras. Have you seen this man? He was caught on, I don't know what they used to call it back then. They had a different name for it back in the day. Made it sound all fancy. But they'd show you the picture of the guy that robbed the bank. It could have been you were looking at yourself, for fuck's sakes. Meanwhile, in 2022, let me say that, 2022. Where's Kathy from the Indie Zone? 2025. Anyway, listen. The cameras back in the day, when I was a kid, were bullshit. And now in 2022, somehow the Moscow Police Department redesigned the fucking argument of bullshit cameras and went fucking crazy. That's his car. That's his car. That's his car. And the 3 vehicles don't match. It's fucking incredible. He went that way. No, motherfucker, he went that way. You knew he went that way, and you still said he went that way. It's like, really? Why would you do that in a quadruple homicide? What about the victims? What about, I mean, what about other investigations? I mean, the idea that these people didn't plant that knife sheath that's just disintegrated in my mind. Of course they did. How'd they get it? Well, I think they had Brian Koberger's name. They probably went into his apartment and stole it, for fuck's sakes, right? Here's the other thing, too, and nobody is foiling this, and I keep saying this over and over again. They recovered 3 knives in Pennsylvania, okay? A fillet knife, some fucking Stanley something folding fucking knife or something, right? And then a knife. Just, that's it, a knife. Not a butter knife, not a Perry knife, not a steak knife, not a fucking butcher knife, not a bread knife, not a hunting knife, not a fucking thing. Just knife. K-N-I-F-E. What the fuck is that? Why isn't anybody FOIA'd to get the evidence that they collected? Images of that evidence. I bet you they collected a fucking... Here's what I think they collected. I think they collected a K-bar knife in Pennsylvania. A K-bar knife that had nothing to do with the crime. Right? They probably collected a knife sheath in Pennsylvania too, but they decided not to fucking log it in. Unbelievable how these cops did what they did. It's beyond understanding, man. It's kind of like watching politics. Right? So yeah, it's like watching them fucking munchkin eating motherfuckers. The only thing they know how to do is lie and steal. That's it. And that's permeated throughout all of society. It's kind of crazy, man. Ryan Goldberger did it. Yeah, of course he did. Where's DAGO? Fucking DAGO. Somebody go find DAGO. Did he open up his stream? Did DAGO get recertified for this evening's stream? I don't even know. Yeah, that's the only reason I got into true crime. No, you guys didn't know that? Jacqueline, you didn't know? That they got a list of items that they obtained from the search warrant for the Koberger family's residence. They found a 9mm handgun. They found bullets. They found blah, 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 blah. But they found 3 knives in Brian's closet, I think. And they entered the knives. Filleting knife with sheath. Folding knife or some kind of utility knife. And then knife. I want to know somebody that can say knife and you understand what they're telling you. Because the last I ever looked, the last I've ever heard, and I ain't been around long enough to hear everything, but I've heard quite a bit about knives. They're generally come with a fucking description attached to them, right? A knife is a knife is a knife, don't get me wrong. But every knife is built for a purpose. And because every knife is built for a purpose, it comes with a fucking name. K-bar. What does that describe? What is a K-bar knife? Oh, it's a military knife used by the Marine Corps. How about a fucking Rambo knife? What's a Rambo knife? It's a jerk-off fucking utility knife that's worth about 3 cents that's copied from the Rambo movie. I mean, every knife has a name, right? And these people are just fucking crack. I think they probably should smoke crack. I really recommend it. I think that all the police departments in Idaho ought to pick up the crack pipe and just start sucking on that glass dick. It would make more sense that they were doing drugs for the kind of shit they did in this case. Holy Christ. And then everybody that's come out, I don't know if Turvey did, but at least so far everybody's come out and said what an exemplary job these guys have done. Really? Really? That's an exemplary job? Oh my God. I got arrested for possession of narcotics one time, coming out of a drug house where they were selling drugs and where me and my friend just bought drugs. And they stopped us and asked us some questions and used the fact that it was a known drug house to search us. And when they searched us, they found drugs in my friend's pocket and they found nothing in my pocket because I didn't have nothing. Matter of fact, what I did have was money that I gave to them to buy the drugs that he gave to them and put the drugs in his pocket. So when they stopped us and searched us, their search turned up no drugs on me. Therefore, I wasn't in possession of any drugs, and therefore their arrest was unlawful. Try telling that to a cop that's watching a drug house, seeing drug addicts come out of that house. They think they're going to scare you into a plea deal. That's why the preliminary hearings are so important. Fuck that plea deal bullshit. I can't be in possession of drugs that are in somebody else's pocket, no matter how fucking close to them I are. I could be hugging them. I could be kissing them. I could be banging them. It's in their pocket. I'm not in control of their pockets. Anyway, that cost them 10 grand for doing that. And these Idaho cops are no fucking smarter. They're just no smarter than the cops in the town I live in. And that's the other thing, too. I live in the state of New York, and this guy sued the state because he scored too high in the civil service exam. And people with a score that high generally aren't content to be a police officer. Well, this guy argued his whole life he dreamed of being a police officer. That's all he grew up to be. And there were all kinds of evidence that that was true. Pictures of him as a little boy. This guy wanted to be a cop. They didn't want him because he was too fucking smart. That's basically what they said without saying it, right? The highest score we've ever seen on the civil service exam. Somebody like that's not going to be content as a patrol officer. Yeah, okay. You want dumb fuckers that just scrape by or need to take the test a couple of times. That's the guy you want to be your cop. The guys in high school that don't have any group to hang out with. They're not with the drug addicts. They're not with the jocks. They're not with the chess club. They're not in the fucking sewing club or the baking club. Or they're just the loners that really nobody knows what the fuck they are. But they're there in high school with you. Those are the guys that become cops. Those are the guys that yeah, I'm not suggesting that they're all bad, but I'm suggesting so many of them are that it doesn't matter. When you say all, it's maybe over encompassing, but I don't think by that much. Take orders, do what you're told, arrest people because the governor or the mayor says you got to arrest people, and that's just completely unconstitutional. Tell people you have to do something or you're going to get arrested, detained, because you're not doing what the government told you to do. Go fuck yourself with that. And these cops just like fucking, they're like stupid. They just go ahead and do what they're told. And you know why? Why is because A, it protects their fucking whatever retirement they got, and B, you can't really do anything to the cop because the fucking government's insuring their actions. And unless their actions are in complete violation of what's covered under the insurance policy, them going out and saying, oh, you're not wearing this in a public place. Yeah. It's just, we live in a fucked up society when you look at the judicial and politics. But I do got good news for you. If you don't pay attention to any of that, life is pretty fucking good on the balance, right? I mean, there's nowhere else in the world where you can walk into one store and every single thing you could possibly need to survive, exist, and enjoy and flourish is available in that one store. There's just nothing like this around the world. That's the conundrum here. There literally is nothing like America anywhere. Not Japan, not fucking Saudi Arabia, not England, not France, not Denmark, not Sweden, not Italy. No, sorry. Nothing like what we have here. We are the shit. We are the shit. We're so many leagues above the living standards and the lifestyle of any other country on earth that it's staggering. And Americans, for the most part, including me, are too stupid to realize that until one day maybe you do. Because they have a World Cup. And suddenly you start seeing people from all over the globe coming here, and they can't believe what they found. You know what they found most of all? They found the generosity and the decency of the American people. That's the most intriguing thing that they found. I mean, and that's no fucking joke. Go into any fucking sports bar or any kind of establishment like that. You'll find people cheering and blah, blah, blah. You'll find people that are on your team or not on your team. They're the opponent, buying each other drinks. I mean, no matter where you go to a boat, go to a marina and start launching your boat. Start having trouble launching your boat. See how many people don't offer to help get that boat in the water. I mean, that's what they found over here. They found that the American people are generally very good people. Very generous people. Very social people. Waitresses coming up to them, babe, can I get you some coffee? And they're like, she called me babe. Yeah. Yeah. And then start having conversations with strangers that sat down at the table or, I mean, it's just, I don't think Americans really understand just how much America is unique. That's why we keep saying a lot of people, especially people on the opposite side of the aisle of me, they don't want to hear we're except. Oh, we had slaves. Yeah, we did have fucking slaves. All right. And we did what we could to make amends. We put an end to it. And we got that behind us, right? Right. And the people that don't want to get it behind you are the people that keep reminding you every day that we had slaves. Well, what the fuck? Nobody's a slave anymore. Where's the happiness in realizing that we corrected our ways? We saw the error of our ways and corrected it. And the very people that are arguing against telling us we didn't correct it are the very people that were keeping these people in chains. Right? It's fucking crazy, man. And that's all they want to talk about is what America did wrong. Look what we did to the Indians. We didn't come here to kill nobody. Matter of fact, we got here by accident, for fuck's sakes. We literally got here by accident. Christopher Columbus had no fucking clue where he was going. He thought he was going to be going to India by of all things, by sailing in the opposite fucking direction. I mean, so let's be clear here. They knew less then than we know now. They knew so much less that they thought going in the complete opposite direction would bring them to India. I don't know. I don't even know how to fucking not laugh about that. I mean, it's just fucking incredible. So we didn't come here to hurt nobody. But I'll tell you what just happened with the World Cup. Many Europeans, millions of them, let's be clear, not a few thousand, millions of them now. Okay? Millions of them now understand the difference between America and anywhere else. And I mean anywhere else. And that's like, I don't even know. I don't even know how to put that in context. That's like staggering. I mean, America just seen us, the world's seen us as like gun-toting fat bastards sitting on our couch. Right? That's what they're told. That's what they think. And then they show up and they're like, holy fuck. Look at this sports stadium. Then going to colleges and seeing the college sports stadiums. Our college sports stadiums are better than the European professional fucking stadiums. Those are our college stadiums. Our fucking roadways, our expanse, the different, how many different climates can you find? How many different fucking national parks and different fucking places you can go, from mountains to the valley to the desert to the fucking deepest hole in the fucking earth that runs for how many miles in the Grand Canyon? I mean, there's all the things you could do. You can go to Connecticut. You can do all the fucking fishing. It's crazy, man. There's no reason to leave America because you're not going to find anything anywhere else that's so precisely unique that America doesn't have something of similar nature or better. I mean, if you want to go look at old buildings, I like architect, but I wouldn't go to Europe just on the principle of that. Well, I don't want to. I can look at pictures of old buildings. That's enough. I don't really have any interest in going to see these fucking old churches and old fucking stadiums. I mean, it's great that they got them. I mean, pat on the back, Western civilization was born there. I mean, don't get me wrong, I respect all of that, but there's a reason so many Europeans fled there for the New World. Let's never forget that. Why the fuck did they fly over here? Why did they get on them boats and risk their lives? Crammed in fucking steerage class on the fucking ship to come here. Why'd they do that? I'll tell you, I think America should open up an expedited system for English-speaking Europeans to immigrate to the United States. I think we should open that fucking channel up wide. Let them fucking pour in. Remember, many of them have assets. Many of them have fucking skills. Many of them have their own pocket money to come and make a go of it themselves. I think we should do that. I get a kick out of people talking about well, Canada has free healthcare. Yeah, I guess it does. But you wait in line for an MRI for 3 months. The fuck, you'd be dead. Go ahead, go play them fucking government games where the government provides you with services. I don't want the government providing me with services. Go fuck yourself. I want to go to Alicia's. I want to go to fucking Mish Girl. I want to go to fucking American people that own businesses and let them take care of it. That's where the shit gets done. Not with the way you see in Europe and Canada. That's just a fucking twisted way to be a Western country, in my opinion. Fuck the government. Look at the chaos they cause over here. Our own fucking government. Governments are the fucking bane of humanity. Look at California. They got, I don't know how many, 18 billion or some fucking crazy amount of billions of dollars to build a railroad. And they've only built like 200 feet and all the money's gone. Get the fuck out of here. It's crazy, man. Then look at this case with Brian Kohlberger. All the millions spent, all of that money available, all of the resources available, and the best they could come up with is a car and a cell phone that's nowhere where they claimed. That's the most incredible fucking thing you can imagine. They spent $8+ million investigating this case and produced a suspect, and then issued warrants against the suspect without even investigating the suspect. Why didn't they go to Brian Kosberger's name? Police, can we have a moment of your time? And start asking them questions. Can we review? Can we look at your vehicle? Can you open the doors? Da, 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 da. Do you mind giving us a buccal swab? Why didn't they treat that guy like they did everybody else, and then establish criminal behavior based on an investigation that they were investigating all kinds of people, teachers and neighbors and sororities and fucking friends, and holy fuck. It's just mind-boggling to me that following the process, because to me the result doesn't justify the means. I think that's something Americans, they hear those words, they don't really think they apply to us individually, but I think they do apply to us individually, and we should all take that to heart. The ends don't justify the means, right? Stole something from my garage doesn't give me the right to go and kick your front door down and hold you at gunpoint. No, I'm streaming from a webcam that doesn't cam, but it microphones. Yeah. I gotta buy it. I keep forgetting. I'll write it down though. Let me write that down. New mic. I don't know why I need a new mic, for fuck's sake. The one I got's only a couple years old. New mic, okay? I will put that down. But I don't really stream that much anymore. And if Brian Koberger files an appeal, then I'll be definitely more interested in the IDAHo 4, but I'm kind of like laughing at it. I'm laughing at it. Unbelievable. I was arrested for walking out of a drug house and charged with a crime. Possession in the 7th degree. Fucking retarded, man. Dylan and Bethany could sit in a fucking house full of blood and whatever else happens after you pass away over the hours. Nothing. Not a problem. Not a fucking problem. You got people that write books and people that are on the fucking defense team. Like Cy Ray. Oh, I think he's guilty. Well, we don't give a fuck what you think. Why were you on his defense team if you thought he was guilty? For one, but the most importantly, you're coming out and you're throwing fucking hot coals on the fucking prosecution and the investigation. And then in the next breath, you're saying they did a good job. That's what I mean. The police themselves don't know right from... They know right from wrong, but they never see themselves in the wrong. That's the fucked up thing. No, I think if Brian Koberger files an appeal, Mason, you're going to find a shocking revelation. You're going to find a lot of stuff that the cops did that was just completely unconstitutional. You're going to find rulings by Judge Hippler that were not lawfully made, that those rulings don't hold water. You can't make the fucking defense prove who did it in order for you to make an alternative suspect argument. You can't hold the defense to that standard. The defense's job isn't to find who did the fucking crime. The defense should absolutely. You can't have 5, 8, 10 different sources of DNA and not test any of it. And then find the most microscopic piece of DNA and only investigate that. Come on, man. You can't have that shit both ways. It don't work that way. In my understanding, from what I've researched, all transfer DNA cases that have been overturned have been overturned specifically because other DNA at the crime scene was ignored. That woman that was arrested in Italy, that was accused of killing her fucking roommate with a knife, she was convicted on transfer DNA. That was overturned by the Supreme Court. So I'm not saying Koberger's innocent. I'm not saying Koberger could not have done this. I'm not in that camp. Here's the camp I'm in. I don't give a fuck if he did it or not. Matter of fact, honestly, I hope he did do it. And I hope that what they did legally to put him in jail blows up in their fucking face and they get run over by a steamroller and he gets released. America deserves that for the fucking way these people have been behaving. Americans deserve that. Maybe it'll wake us the fuck up. Right? A quadruple fucking homicide killer is freed. because of the fucking mismanagement of the investigation, the unlawful obtainment of warrants based on false data that they knew was false and never tried to correct it. Fuck that. You can't guarantee nothing, Mason. You really can't guarantee nothing. You could believe all you want. You got no evidence to put him in that house except transfer DNA. That's it. And I don't care in the end whether he did it or not. But the only one that knows exactly what happened that night with Brian Kohlberger is Brian Kohlberger. And that's the end of it. I mean, I don't get into believing. I get into thinking. And I think that the evidence that they used to obtain the information they got was unlawful. I said that's what I joined true crime for. When I read that probable cause affidavit, I was beside myself. I think I lost nights of sleep looking at that document. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't good enough for him to plead guilty. Let me tell you, have you ever been locked in a cage? Because I have. You ever been put in jail on charges that weren't fucking true? Because I have. How long do you got to sit in jail? How many times does your lawyer got to go to court and fight for you and get denied? How is it that you have to prove who did it? And how is it that a sitting fucking magistrate, a judge, can say to your defense team that the people that you're pointing to don't have a white car? There's no evidence that white car was connected. As a matter of fact, the only evidence people have on the white car is that it wasn't part of the crime. That's the truth. That's absolute truth. Not because I want it to be, not because I think Kohlberger's innocent, but because they fucked up. They seriously fucked up. They searched that car, come out clean. Searched his apartment, come out clean. Searched his office, come out clean. Searched his home in Pennsylvania, came out clean. I'm sorry. But when all the evidence that you need to tie him to the crime is unavailable, that doesn't mean he's innocent. It just means your investigation isn't producing the results, right? I don't know that he had a chance at trial. I don't think he had an honest chance at trial. You sit in jail for 2.5 years, and the judge comes out and says, well, none of those people have a white car. What the fuck is that all about? None of them people have a white car. Well, who's to say the white car was involved? That fucking jerk off Bill Thompson? Cracker Claus told you the car's involved? Where's the video of Brian Kohlberger getting in and out of that car, entering or exiting that home, and going towards a parking? Where is that? I'm sorry, this is the United States of America. Just because he drives a white car and he was out that night doesn't place him at that home. And your blurry fucking images from 1965 cameras that can't define the vehicle in any way, shape, or form. There's no marking of the car that's identifiable one way or the other. The only place there is in a place that's nowhere near the crime scene. Where they claim there was no front plate showing was in a place that wasn't anywhere near the crime scene. So what the fuck? I'm just telling you, if he did it, fine. But show me evidence that makes this kid sitting in life for the rest of his life. Show me evidence that was obtained lawfully under the fair rules and the limits of the Constitution placed on the investigators who happen to be government agents. And I don't mean secret agents or stupid like that. They're agents of the government. They're working on behalf of law enforcement for the people of the state that they're in. They're agents of the government. Don't tell me the Constitution doesn't have any limits placed on government. Doesn't give you and me a right. No human being told me I can own a gun. The fact that I was born in this country means I can own a gun. That's the end of the story. It's a God-granted right. So is your right to unlawful search and seizures. That's not a right. That's government's limit. The government cannot unlawfully search and seize your home and your property. Right? They even stop fucking dogs from pulling somebody over for an unrelated issue and then sniffing the guy's car with a dog and thinking there's marijuana in there and then searching the guy's car. They put it into that too. Because government has limits. The government just can't run roughshod over you like they did this guy. I don't know what happened with DAGO. I did put a link in. Paste. I wonder if he's in the back room. No, he's not. But I did put a link. He's welcome to come up. This is where my argument has always been. I mean, and then sometimes it gets very frustrating, and I scream, Brian didn't do it. But in the end, the fact of the matter is you could show a trillion ways into which he did do it. And the only way you could show the kid didn't do it is by doing what these cops did. They had no business running over their limits in that Constitution. That's a guardrail for the government. That's not your right. Totally not your right. to have free speech. Totally not your right for freedom. The government shall not infringe on these things. That's what the Constitution is saying. The government can't tell you what religion you can and cannot be a part of. It's not that you have some special permission from some fucking king that you can worship whoever you want. That's not how this works over here. And that's not how it works. Nobody gave me these fucking these rights. These are what free people enjoy, and the government shall not cross that line. Let me see. Well, whether he's got his opinion. Look, some of what Sai said is extremely valuable. I think people aren't paying attention to the things he said that are more valuable than the things he said that you don't like. That's the kick to Sai. I mean, Sai Ray, no matter what Sai Ray is saying, he's pointing out. For example, one of the things he said, if they would have followed the information correctly, they probably would have had their man a lot easier than what they did. They didn't need to do IGG. Didn't need to do any of that. They knew the car went a different direction and still didn't change. They didn't even go back and correct that. Once they realized that, here's the thing too, just be aware. This really ruins the whole case. I said this years ago. The car that they claim is Brian's traveling down 270, and why they call it suspect vehicle 1, and why they say it's similar. Brian Kohlberger has a vehicle similar to suspect vehicle 1. They're trying to cover for the fact that that is not Brian's car. That's point 1. They know it not to be. Point 2, if that's the car the investigation is based off, then that in and of itself shows you that that's not Brian Kohlberger's car they're tracking. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that this white vehicle that left that college and went down 270 is Brian Kohlberger, and then every picture you find, okay? Every picture you find is basically a representation of the car that you're tracking that you know for a fact is not Brian Kohlberger. You follow me? I mean, it's kind of a fucking mess when you know that your first statement is fucked up. Well, I think, Beck, if you listen to some of the things he points out, like when I'm talking to you right now, I pointed this out before Cy Ray ever came. It never really people really didn't either. Maybe I don't understand. I don't explain myself properly. Maybe that's the problem. But if two cars leave a college campus, one car heads north and the other car heads east, right? And the car heading east is suspect vehicle 1. Then every future identification of the movement of suspect vehicle 1 cannot be Brian Kohlberger. It's that simple. I mean, it's ridiculously stupid. I don't care how close in appearance these two cars are. It's not even a red flag. I mean, come on, man. It's like saying he's black. There's two black guys. A crime was committed. And two black guys walk off in different directions. But because the guy that walks off in a direction that will accommodate your opinion, he committed the fucking crime, right? You keep saying the black guy, this black guy, this black guy. Just look at this image, looks like that black guy. Go try doing that in court and see what happens to you. You'll be put in jail for racism or something. That's what I mean. The car identification is the equivalent of saying a black person did it and then arresting somebody because they're black. Right? Well, the additional evidence, because it wasn't used, is useless now. Here's the problem you don't really see, Mason. They could have a 1080p picture. Brian standing in the light, smiling at the camera with a dripping knife, standing at the front door of the home, and you can't admit it now. It's over. See, he took a plea bargain to their argument, right? They laid out how he committed the crime. He didn't. This is how you did the crime. In this car, at this time, between these minutes, with this weapon. You see? So it doesn't matter. That's even worse. This is what Cy was trying to point to. Is that it's not anymore can it be considered additional evidence, Mason. That's not how the law works, man. The government can't get you to plead to a crime and list out every step of the crime and be wrong in all of it, and you accept and take the plea and go to jail, right? On appeal, they can't bring the additional evidence in. You see? They got to wipe their ass with it. They should stick it down each other's throats and choke on it, if that's true, right? See, that's what I mean. The law is pretty fucking specific. You can't be double jeopardized. You were tried, you weren't tried, but you were brought to court. You played their game, and then you agreed to their fucking deal. So now it's over. That's Mason, you and I agree on. That's exactly what I hope happens here. Because Americans need to understand the law. They need to understand that there's a big lack in fucking professionalism when it comes to investigating crime. Some crimes are just stupid easy. You got video images like in a Walmart or in a McDonald's or something like that, right? There's no question who's committing this crime and starting this fight and beating up on a cashier. But in cases like this, look at the Gilgo case in Rhode Island. Police corruption for 10 years prevented the apprehension of that suspect who continued to kill during the fucking period of police corruption. Imagine that. This happens all over the place. Look at Karen Reed. Look at the Karen Reed case. Go look at who's that other guy, Bridge guy. I keep forgetting his name. But Bridge guy. These are just 4 examples of just how fucking deficient our law enforcement is when it comes to doing their investigation and coming to a conclusion that you can trust. Look at in Seattle, Washington, is it? Or a state over on the West Coast? How many thousands of falsified DNA samples were produced to a court and convicted people? How a woman in a lab, Richard Allen, thank you. How about the woman in the lab? Was it 1,000 or 10,000? At least 1,000 cases where she confirmed a DNA match to the accused. And there you go. Where's Cluminati? Who's Cluminati's ex-wife? What are you guys talking about? Yeah, the Richard Allen case. Richard Island. Richard as an island. What do you mean? Was Cluminati in here? Who's in here? Yeah, what about the woman that was just arrested in Texas for posting on Facebook that if you have dirty water, cloudy water, water that smells, blah, 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 to contact her, right? And the police came and arrested her. And their argument was that she was creating a public, it's like screaming in a church or in a movie theater, fire, fire, and there's no fire. They arrested her based on that. And now the police had to quit, the chief had to quit, the judge had to quit. No, this just happened the other day. This just happened the other day, man. Yeah. Mass hysteria. See, Mason knows. Yeah, Mason. You're right on with it. There you go. Yeah. This is what I mean about my issue with the Kohlberger case. I don't know who did it. I don't think we're ever going to know who did it. I think that was the fucking point. They're protecting something in that town that's much bigger than Brian Kohlberger and sadly much bigger than the 4 victims. That's the tragedy of it all. And that's why earlier I was ranting about policemen doing what they're told rather than understanding there's limits to what they actually are allowed to do. That should be hammered into them. I mean, here's a great example. The Americans, you and me, can fix the police quickly. Quickly. You video them speeding by you, and then keeping them in sight, tracking where they end up. And if where they end up isn't a crime scene that required them to speed, you turn them in. Policemen shouldn't speed for any reason, ever, at all. Policemen should only use their phone when directed to, or when it's a mandatory instrument that needs to be used in carrying out their duty. Not to talk to their girlfriends, not to talk to their wives, not to talk to the other fellow policemen while they're fucking driving. There is no phone use when you drive. The speed limit sign says 60. You don't go 75. Americans could make this. I mean, I'm sorry. I think we've entrusted these things to people that go to colleges and get these degrees, and they're just fucking incapable of understanding their job. It's just crazy. And here we get all these people look, for all, I don't even know what word I'm trying to find them. But the bottom line is Brian Koberger, guilty, stands to have a significant chance on an appeal to get most of his evidence thrown out. I think he stands a decent chance if he files an appeal, especially with that case at the Supreme Court. I think Hitler made some serious mistakes there. It was admitted that Hitler was involved in mediating the two sides to come to an agreement. That's out of bounds. It's not the judge has no business in doing that because he's working on behalf of the fucking prosecution at that point. He wasn't working on behalf of the defendant trying to get the prosecution to drop the charges. Clearly, if he's involved in mediating, as has been suggested or even said, I think he said it. Somebody said it. If he was involved in that, then I'm sorry, that's just unlawful. That does not work. He can accept the plea deal, but not be part of the negotiations or part of the process itself, unless it's in front of a court, okay, a court that's in order and everything that's done is done openly and put on the record. For all intents and purposes, no, I don't think any of that. I don't know. We'll never know, Mason. Like it's a matter of, that's what I say to folks, Mason. I think we're too quick to believe right, left, up, or down, right? And I know my audio sucks. I'm sorry, but I'm sure that you guys can make out what I'm saying, right? I think that's the failing of our education system. The belief, like they train you to believe America's a bad place because we had wars with the Indians, right? And look, even though those wars were bad, the part that they never share with you is if we never showed up, there were wars on this continent before us, and they would have been here even if we didn't show up. They didn't just start skinning people because they were skinning your head because you were white. It just wasn't, they were doing it to each other. These Indian nations were warring with each other, steering their women and children, turning the young kids into fucking warriors. And this was going on for centuries, from South America, North America. I mean, it's kind of silly that they, yeah, did it change? Did we end up dominating? Did we end up conquering? Yeah, we did. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't make their warring make our warring right. It doesn't make our warring right because they were warring. I'm not making that argument. I'm simply saying that's just the way humanity operated. Okay? And in the end, do you really think that we're not better off today as a global society because America was discovered, because America was then built up by free people that demanded freedom? I think the world's a much better place. I mean, in ways that's just unimaginable. It's not just in America; it's all over the place. So, I saw the people coming to see the World Cup, and it made me it really, people need to watch those World Cup videos. They need to watch the ones of the Europeans going home. They don't even want to go home, and rightly so. I mean, look at folks. There's a lot about this country that we just, oh man. It's hard to understand when you enjoy something. You know you need to go shopping and they build a bigger store. It's just a bigger store to you and I. What you don't understand is that store contains more marketable goods in one spot than 10 or 15 cities in Europe combined. That's what you don't understand. And this is nationwide. This isn't just one special region of the country. Fucking Walmart is everywhere. Costco is everywhere. Gas stations are everywhere. I mean, it's insane. Airports everywhere. Computers everywhere. It's not like that anywhere else in the world. Most places around the world are over, like Japan, they're overpopulated. They're all crammed in these apartments, in these towers. It's just not like it is here, man. There's no front porch. This one kid said I would die just to be able to go to work every day and come home to sit on my front porch and watch cars go by. Because that's just not a thing in Europe. The streets are narrow. Half the cars you sell over here wouldn't even fit on our roads. I just think it's fucking incredible. And it's something I think we all need to get reacquainted with, that we live in a country that's beyond any other country in the globe. I don't care that you can go to an Arab nation that's oil rich that has a 2,000-foot fucking building. Go live under their rule. Go live under their laws. Go dress and do the things they tell you to do, or you end up in fucking jail. How about a country like ours that gives people second, third, and fourth chances? You don't see that around the world. No, I mean, if you're born into a fucking, like I was, anyways, I was born into a bummish kind of fucking family, a welfare recipient family. All right, drug fucking addled, alcohol addled family. I mean, that's it. That's pretty much where you stick to, right? The old adage, your dad's a shoemaker, you're a shoemaker. It ain't like that over here. You could be a fucking, like me, a fucking, come from a broke, fucked up, drug addled, fucking alcohol addled family and literally make a great life for yourself. Is it easy? No, but it gets easy. That's the best part. It gets easy. You can't do that in many other countries, if not all of them. It's just not a thing. Over here, people celebrate a recovered addict. I think too much, being a recovered addict. I think we give too much credit to people like me. Where's the credit for the guy that followed all the rules and did what he was supposed to do and worked his way up the fucking chain just like anybody else? Where's the accolades for the family that raises their kids to be that way because they've got good family, a loving mother and father? Where's the accolades for those people? Those people deserve accolades. And I think that's just another way to understand this country. We don't expect people to do wrong, but when they do wrong and then turn their lives around, we encourage and cheer them on. I think that's very positive. Unfortunately, I think being one of them people, I think the people that have done that, followed the rules and did their best, they deserve that accolade just as much. Right? And, I can make all the excuses in the world. I sold drugs in school because I had nowhere to live. Yeah, that's true. But that doesn't make selling drugs right. Still wrong. Still fucked up. Was there any other alternative? Probably. I'll tell you something about Brian that's probably personal to me too, because I do have Asperger's. The world's a very fucked up place. Everybody has a motive. And some of us that you claim or are claimed to not really be emotional or whatever, we don't respond to social cues and things like that. We see things quite a bit differently. And I think that when you understand that about yourself and realize that your differences from what people claim to be normal are just normal you, and you can accept that that's who you are, and block out the judgment or the opinions of others, I think you can flourish, especially when you do, like I got some issues, but they don't stop me from doing the right thing. They don't stop me from taking care of myself. They don't stop me of being a good friend, right? But it takes a while sometimes to overcome that. And, when you're young like he was and I was and you're in school, I think the bad things that happened to me gave me the tools I need to be who I am now. Where I don't think Brian actually had that. He, in fact, had a loving mother and father. But I think, like many people that have Asperger's or I don't want to say that. What is that? Autism. People outside of your center group don't accept you. You don't mix with those people, right? And that's a struggle. And I think that he managed that struggle. He turned to drugs. He turned to people that would accept him in spite of what his differences, and that came with drug use. Same thing happened to me. And then he was fortunate that he had a loving family that helped guide him. And I think more importantly, they held him to account when he stole his sister's phone for drugs. They held him to account, and I think that may have been a turning point. And I think Brian struggled, but I think Brian overcame it. I think Brian overcame himself being heavy. He was heavy because of his own personal view, because he didn't fit in. And I really think Brian did turn his life around. I don't think Brian, from what I can see, there's no allegation, no argument, no even suggestion that he was doing drugs again. What's up there, Miss Mom Akins? So yeah, I think he did turn that corner, right? Do you have any thoughts on why he would move across? Yeah, I mean, I think it was time. He was 28 years old. He was 28 years old, and I think he'd achieved enough in the way he had turned his own life around, and he had the support and backing of his family. I find it improbable, to be very honest with you folks. People like me that are autistic or have Asperger's, there's a time to kill and a time not to kill. And let me tell you, the time to kill is extremely limited. That's the other thing, too. It's practical. We're very practical people. I mean, if it don't make sense, it don't make sense. It can make sense to all of you in America. Every one of you can see something make sense. If you seen that picture that I put up where there's a million people standing in front of me and I say, you're all wrong. Sometimes it feels like that. Yeah, so I mean, if you just were to take his medical diagnosis of a level 1 on the autism scale, I don't really see people. I'm capable of killing. I mean, I was a fighter. I had more fights in high school than anybody that ever went through that high school. I beat up teachers, right? And I'm not a big guy. When you look at me, you would think, no, you're just trying to impress. No, not trying to impress anybody at all. When it comes to fighting, you see, I don't see fighting like other people see fighting. I don't know what goes through other people's mind, but mine is to hurt you immediately, and put an end to it. I'm not wrestling on the fucking ground with you and getting all fucking dirty. Fuck you. That means if I got to kick you in the balls, you're going to get kicked in the balls. I don't give a fuck. See, I think our perception of life is a little bit different, but we're very pragmatic, and we don't really. I don't see how. I just can't wrap my head around. Let's say he's got similarities to me. I can't wrap my head around killing 4 people, no matter what they did. And in a life that he had, where he was a teacher's assistant, that he was going to school, he had made this turnaround. I don't see nestled in the back of his head. You don't hear stories of him torturing fucking flies. You don't hear him torturing animals. You just don't see Brian Kohlberger doing the things that you would normally expect somebody with a severe violent fucking thinking in their head. Where was his problem? See, listen, I'll tell you right now, it's a true story. When I went to therapy, right? And I had to lay out my life, my da. And I laid all that stuff out in a courtroom during the divorce. That was the first time I came to tears in court. This what do you call him? Psychiatrist got up on the stand and said I reviewed both of them. He said I did an interview with Mr. and Mr. Simonetti separately. And he said, I don't know where you guys are getting such animosity for this person. So that guy lived his own fucking personal Holocaust. Literally. And the things that he went through as a child, and the abuse and the abandonment. And there's no violence in his record. There's nothing to suggest he would be violent or inappropriate to anybody. He then recovered from drugs, straightened out his life, and he runs a successful business, became a father. She married him. She claims she didn't know the stuff about him, but she knew. How could you not know? The guy's not shy to talk about his past. So he said, I don't think anybody should be standing in judgment of him, because he's quite the amazing person from where he came from. So I really thought at that moment, I was shocked that somebody that had been doing this for the court and been doing this, like they wanted me to go anger management. I was like, anger management? Of course I'm angry. You'd be angry too. You lose your yacht, your homes, you losing your business and your money, losing your kid. All over what? All over what? Not because I hit her, because I didn't. Not because I was a gambler, because I didn't. Not because I was a drug addict, because I didn't. Not because I cheated on her, because I didn't. Right? So Yeah, I think people that do have Asperger's, I'll call it. That's where I place Brian. I think we see things a little bit differently. And if there's a time to kill, I won't hesitate. And I've never hesitated in my life. I saw people choking in a restaurant. I ran all the way across the room and started doing the Heimlich. So there's no, it's like you look at things, I hope to suggest that we look at things in a practical, logical way, right? Yeah, there you go, Michigan. Oh, we're, uh, and here's the thing I think that we're capable of that a lot that we're sensitive to, at least I am, is that people all have motives. And this especially comes true in relationships with other people. And nobody shares their motive until all of a sudden there it is, right? And so I'm a little more standoffish. I use humor to build a bridge between people, but I try to maintain that bridge only until I can understand their motive. And usually it's something financial or something you got they want. Could even be your girlfriend, right? Guys are your friends. They're trying to get to your girl through you, and they're trying to do it sneakily. It's happened to me a few times, but I knew it was happening. I could tell the person's motive, and if your motive is money, I don't want anything to do with you. I don't object to anybody earning an income, but do it honestly. Be fair. And if you can't be fair and honest to earn your income, I don't want anything to do with it. I have no interest in it. Like talking about this case. I enjoy talking about this case and sharing things with people. I enjoy reading these comments. Like what was it? Who was it earlier? Where we had Mason. We had a slightly different view on this particular case, and I like trying to remind people over and over again. Stop believing in data. Believe in God. Believe in no God. Believe in spirituality. Believe Belief is a process that is unique to humanity. A deer doesn't believe they're going to get a cake on their birthday. A deer doesn't believe in anything, but it lives and it flourishes and it survives and it does its thing. But you can believe in things. And that's what the schools have taught people to do. To believe America's bad. To believe what our founding fathers did doesn't matter because they owned slaves too. Well, so did the whole fucking world. But if you believe that they're bad because of that, rather than trying to understand what the whole world was doing, it was all wrong. Absolutely wrong. Right? But one day they may look back on us and say, driving all of these cars was wrong. Who knows what it is they're going to judge us by in the future? How man will progress and evolve to wherever we end up going. And they're going to look back on our time here. And they're going to say a lot of things we did were wrong. But that doesn't make us all bad. It just doesn't. We're doing what we're doing with what we have available to us, good, bad, and indifferent. And we're trying to live a life. We're trying to do, most of us are at least trying to follow the rules and do the right thing and be happy. And the same thing was back in the day when they had slaves. This was not. That's the most common thing mankind's done to mankind. I mean, slavery's been around for thousands and thousands of years. I mean, how come you don't hate every other society that had slaves? And so that's why you don't believe in data. Data tells you something, but is it everything you need to know? Is the information some school teachers giving you all the information you need? What was World War II? Was it Germany's goal to kill Jews? No. Did it become part of their life? Sure it did. Did a lot of Germans ignore it or pretend it didn't happen? Sure they did, right? But believe not in information, but believe in spiritual or religious things. Believing in things do give you, they release chemicals in your brain. To believe in something and find others that believe, for instance, let's take religion, others that believe in being born again. And you find happiness and you find camaraderie and you find um, even ground with others. And you believe in this stuff. That's what that's for. It's not in the data where they tell you a theory of gravity. Don't believe it. It is what it is. Does it explain what you view? Sure. But don't believe it because someone's going to come around sooner or later and show you like they did with Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton, this is the funny thing, this is a great idea why you don't want to believe in data. Isaac Newton, if you believe in Isaac Newton's data, right, then you're going to miss out on what the truth is when you start working with Einstein and others. Is what Isaac Newton proposed enough and accurate enough in its description to be useful? 100%. Construction, moving weights, doing all kinds of things. Absolutely. Newton is accurate in that. But in predicting the orbits of planets and looking out into the solar system and the stars, no, it doesn't work there. Now, if you believe Newton is right, then you would believe Newton's explanation of planetary orbits, which are provably wrong. And that's why you don't want to believe. You want to be able to take the good from the things that are good, even if they're mixed in with the bad. There was a big lesson to be learned after World War II, an even bigger lesson to be learned after World War I. Nobody learned from it. Right? I'll tell you what the biggest lesson is, in my opinion, is that we should not have ruling fucking families and people that are fighting amongst themselves. People that are at the top. I mean, the arguments between Russia and Ukraine aren't the Russian people versus the Ukrainian people, although those are the ones fighting. The problem has nothing to do with the everyday fucking guy like you or me, or girl. It's the rulers that are the fucking problem. How come we haven't learned that lesson? A lot of us can now you may have thought this yourself, but enough of us don't think that through and then think of a way to correct that problem. Right? And then our sons and daughters go off and die in fucking conflict. Like what's happening over now in Iraq. Or not Iraq, Iran. I mean, that was a conflict that could have been avoided. But who created the problem? Just like we created Osama bin Laden. The Western powers. We created all these fucking problems. We didn't have to do that for World War II. There was no need to create any of these fucking problems. But we did. We didn't learn. And many of us, many of our families and friends and members and cousins and went off and died in conflicts. It's crazy. So think about these things. Listen to both sides of the story. Look at facts from one argument to the other argument. See where there's truth or common ground between the facts. See which side is right or wrong. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't believe it. Don't believe anything. Just believe in your God, worship, your spirituality, and then put in that draw line. That's where your beliefs are. Right? Don't believe your boss is a good guy. See what he does and what he doesn't do. If he's a good guy, he's a good guy, and just leave it at that. There's no need to believe it. You just think it. And there is a difference between thinking and believing. And here's the biggest difference between a thinker and a believer. A thinker will accept both sides of the story and analyze it, come to a conclusion, right, wrong, or indifferent. A believer will take one set of data and stick to it and argue and fight with you. Because once you believe, it becomes a part of your identity. Once you believe, it becomes a part of your identity. And so when somebody starts to contradict your belief, they're contradicting your identity. And therefore you get into an argument, you see? That's the key to not believing in information. Never believe in it. Did Brian Kohlberger do this? Based on his own words, he did. Okay? So you can accept that as truth. That's a fact. Is there a room to suggest that the investigation was corrupt and he was framed? There's information to show that that's true too. Both can be true. And you don't have to believe anything. Just accept it for what it is. Did Brian do it? Okay, yeah. Did the investigation that was used to incarcerate him and make the accusations and obtain warrants, was that done correctly? And the answer to that, I'm going to tell you, is no. And that's just how it goes. You have to be able to take both sides of the coin. You can't just stick yourself to one side of the coin like they teach you in school. I mean, come on. If what they said in school about me was going to be true, I would have ended up like the other three kids that I was, stepkids that I was raised with. All of them on some kind of public assistance or alcoholism and whatever. I would have stayed just in that fucking hole. That's where I should have been. That's what I was destined to be. That's what I was being told constantly. And I did play that role for a while. But I just one day got tired of it. There's no way, based on what I know about myself, that I can't do anything anybody else is doing, whether it be fucking fly an airplane or operate on a fucking heart. There's no way that I cannot do that if I decide those are the things I want to do. And that's how it worked out for me. And that's why when I look at this case and I see, I don't, you know, there's one streamer out there that's got tons of followers. But I'm going to say this, I think that this guy Birdie, as an example, I think Birdie came from I don't know where Birdie came from, but I get the feeling by listening to him that Birdie was either an announcer or in some kind of entertainment field or some kind of communication things. And Birdie has got it down. He knows how to keep people's attention and draw the people in. And he'll consider anything when it comes to the IDAHo 4 to maintain an audience. I don't know. I don't see that as equitable or fair. I just don't see that. I mean, I don't want to hear all these theories outside of the data that's given, right? So when you read the documents and you try to look at the documents in a way different than what's stated, like the bloody footprint outside of her door, that to me doesn't prove a cleanup. Okay? I did think that for a little while. Also, when you look at the diluted blood stains on the second floor common area, I don't think that proves a cleanup either. I think the cleanup is proven in the absence of what you can't see. And what I mean is, again, I don't know how many people experience real violence, but you don't stab somebody 54 fucking times and empty their body of all their blood and not get covered head to toe in blood. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. It does if you slice their throat from behind. Okay? Yeah. But anybody like that jerk-off Cy Ray that said, I've seen many fucking killings and nobody had any blood on them, you got to go fuck yourself, Cy Ray. Not that way. Not in a dragged-out fucking fight on the floor of a bedroom that's the size of a fucking closet. And that girl's bleeding out everywhere, and you're wielding this knife, you sick motherfucker, into her 54th. I don't care who you are. I don't care what line of work you're in. If your argument is that, yeah, you could have done that and walked out of there and not left footprints, okay. What about the fucking hair, my hands, my sleeves, my balls? What about all the blood I'm covered in, for fuck's sake, Cy Ray? What kind of a fucking, this is what I mean by cops just aren't trained. They act like they got all the answers, and their statements are truth. And it's bullshit. Bullshit, man. Listen, I knew enough when I broke into a house to get rid of the fucking shoes because there was snow on the ground. I knew enough to get rid of those shoes. What the fuck? The cops come to my door. Can we have a minute with you? Yeah. Well, this, and this, and there's good reason to think that you were involved in this. And can we? Yeah, come on and have a coffee. Sit down. Want some coffee? How about a cigarette? No. Okay. They're looking around my apartment. He goes, are those your shoes? I go, yeah, my shoes are here. He goes, what about by the front door? I go, there's a pair by the front door as well that are mine. This is an apartment. Anyway. He said, can I look at them? I said, yeah, go right ahead. Picked them up, looked at right away, flipped them over, looked at the soles. Put them down. He goes, yeah, I appreciate that. He goes, are there any other shoes? I said, you're free to search the apartment, but why are you looking for shoes? He said, well, there were footprints left at the scene, he said, and you know, your footprints don't match. He goes, but yeah. I said, look at my closet, look under wherever you want to look. He goes, no. He goes, we're good. And that was it. I never heard another thing because I was smart enough to get rid of my fucking shoes. That cop left there convinced I didn't do it when I was the fucking guy that did it. Okay? I don't think we're ever going to hear from Brian Koberger in that way. Maybe. I think the appeal is everything. If he files an appeal, I think the appeal is going to be more beneficial to the public at large than it is to even him if he gets released. The public needs to see how inadequate our officers are. And I'm going to suggest to you folks that this is a kind of a bad thing, but it's true. It isn't that these guys, I call them stupid. Maybe that's a little bit fucking unfair. Maybe they're just dumb. Like, you could fix dumb. Dumb and ignorance can be repaired. But you got to realize that they're being trained by the very people that are giving them orders. And the very people that are giving them orders are speeding around town, banging girls when they're not supposed to be banging them. Talking on the phone, we're not supposed to be talking on the phone. Covering for each other. Oh, this is a systemic problem throughout the entire system. And the people that called it right were Black Lives Matter, where they say the corruption is systemic. And a lot of people ignore Black Lives Matter. I'm not a supporter of Black Lives Matter, but I'll tell you what I am. I'm a supporter of truth and facts. And they were right when they said that the discrimination and the police system itself is corrupt and it's endemic. I believe that 100%. I believe most police don't even realize what they're doing is corrupt or inadequate or violating the constitutional limits. I believe they don't believe that because they haven't been taught to understand that part of their job. And in the end, ignorance is not a defense. So I'm not defending the police on that aspect. But when you look at a guy like Cy Ray that's going to tell you there were no footprints, you can tell when footprints are wiped up. Listen, asshole. Blood cast off, diluted blood tells you that blood was diluted when it was cast off, which tells you something was cleaned. The cleanup can include the weapon, the cleanup can include the perpetrator, and the cleanup can include the fucking floor. But it doesn't need to include all three. And the diluted cast off shows you. I mean, the argument, well, maybe there was moisture on the wall. Well, moisture on the wall will not interfere with DNA. You see what I mean? But his mind is trained to see things in a way that keeps the police correct because that's what he was trained. So, he's writing books and he wants to teach police. That guy should, listen, he should be a fucking bird trainer at best, right? Teach parrots how to talk, Cy Ray. That's it. Teach them how to speak proper fucking English without any of the swear words that I use, and he would probably be in a great career. But not law enforcement. I'm sorry. There's a systemic problem endemic to the way these officers are trained and to the way they're all part of some club. And they shouldn't be. The only club they should be part of is the American club. And in America, justice is justice. Right is right, wrong is wrong, fair is fair. And your limit as an officer is outlined in the Constitution written by we, the people. Right? Not by Cy Ray's fucking determination of what's right and wrong, or Cy Ray arguing, just like, who was it? Christopher Whitcomb said the same thing. They did great work. I don't know, man. I've seen some stuff, and I'm telling you, you're talking about just Xana, right? Listen, just Xana is what they're talking about. But how about the other three murders and all the cast off from those three? That doesn't accumulate. So I don't know. It's very, very aggravating, very frustrating. And these are the best we can do. This is the best we can do with police. I don't get it at all, man. Bear with me 1 second. I'll be right back. Where's my mute? Hey, and I post that link up there. You guys are welcome to come in here and join. Listen, I think the two that live, they got a lot to answer for. You can't tell that many stories differently and add and subtract or forget and have to be coached. They shouldn't have coached Dylan. That interview and the interviews they gave to whatever people could have potentially been suspects is insane. If you believe, as Cy Ray states, that you could commit all those crimes and walk out of there without any blood to worry about, right? Then how are all the people around there not part of the fucking investigation? How are Dylan and Bethany not part of it? You know? Thank you there, Mom. Mom, I don't know how to say it. Educated idiots function by remote. Yeah. You're not allowed to have a thought. That case was assigned to a kid that had no experience to be the investigator. You know why it was assigned to Brett Payne? Because everybody else had Brady Gigolo shit against them. They were down to the last one or two guys that hadn't been caught up in their bullshit yet. And then what do? They send the new guy to apply for a warrant in front of a judge. And what do they put in a warrant? It's my experience that criminals turn their phone off before committing the crime to mask their location. I mean, great, good. You read a fucking book. You're fantastic there, Brett Payne. Thank you very much for reminding us what criminals may do. But you're talking about a kid that's not a criminal. You're talking about a fucking A+ student or an A student, some high fucking in a college, in criminal whatever the fuck he was doing, who's a teacher's assistant, that is not a known criminal. Not a known criminal. Therefore, that whole statement is should not even be in a warrant. You can't refer to a criminal when you're talking about. You see that right there tells you right off the bat. They focused on him 100% to the exclusion of all else, which I said way, way long ago. That's what the police do, to the exclusion of all else. I broke into an apartment, and when they couldn't get me indicted, that was the end of the case. To the exclusion of all else. Now, I did do it, but was never charged with it. But you think they would continue to try to see who look for another perp? No. They had one piece of evidence to argue that I did it, and it wasn't even nearly enough, not even close enough, for them to indict me. So why didn't they keep looking? I don't see Brian as being a target. I think Brian became the most convenient idiot the world has ever seen. And let me just say, for two reasons. Even if he did it, convenient idiot, because for some reason they were tracking him somehow, where they got all these phone pings, these phone locations, driving. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think that behavioral is fair. That driving is unique to just what he was doing over in Washington and in Idaho. I suspect, and I think it was said somewhere, that he actually did that when he was home. He was an outdoors person. That's what his mother said. So he was always doing this stuff. So there's, if you're going to argue his behavior is consistent with the crime, like Cy Ray, that's like, again, just a half-assed fucking cop that only wants to bring enough information forward to make themselves right, rather than bring all the information forward and review it and say, this is nothing unusual. That's the problem with the police work. It's the problem with a lot. See, it's the problem with a lot of Americans don't think this stuff through, because we're not being told. You only got one asshole out here like me telling you to stop believing in information. If someone like Joe Rogan and somebody with millions and millions of followers really wanted to help the public at large, there's several things that they could address that would change the world. But they don't want to do that because they want the clicks, they want the money. Like I said, I want to say this too. I don't have any real issue with any of the streamers out here that want to use this for entertainment and income. I personally, and you don't have to agree with this, I personally don't find that okay. It is what it is. I am involved in IDAHo 4. I do follow IDAHo 4. I will get on some channels for IDAHo 4 or come out here on my own for IDAHo 4. But I'm not doing it for any kind of reward or any kind of I don't know. No, I said that too. And this is the other thing too. It eludes the streamers. Sometimes I hear Harsh bring up points that I've brought up that I hadn't heard anywhere else. I wonder, maybe he's listened to it. But let me just make this one point. If you want the MO of the killer is driving a fucking dagger straight into the human body, right behind the collarbone, straight down into you, and cutting the subclavian vein, the subclavian artery, and the nerves associated with the voice box, the lung, and the fucking heart on that side of your body, the left side of your body. It indicates two things. A, it was a right-handed fucking killer. B, okay? And B, they knew where to hit. That subclavian vein and subclavian artery is such an important fact. Nobody wants to talk about it. Not Lana, not any of the streamers. They can't understand the significance of that. And if you can understand its significance, now you have information about the killer or killers. But basically the killer, the person that wielded that knife. Yeah, but there was the throat slitting, the throat was not where they were killed. That's the other thing too. The subclavian vein and subclavian artery cause internal hemorrhaging. And actually, you could be out, completely out in 15 to 30 seconds, unable to defend yourself. That wound is so important in these crimes. So important that 3 of the 4 victims suffered that wound. And here's why it's important. It tells you something about the crime. It tells you that 3 or 4 of these people were in a sitting upright position when they were struck. That means they were not just fucking awake. They were not just fucking awake. They were engaged consciously with their killer. You on the ground, folks. If you and I are on the ground and I straddle on top of you, it'd be a motherfucker to stab you in the subclavian artery because you're not going through the front chest. The ribs will block you. The wound came in from behind the collarbone. Touch your collarbone, folks, that soft area, and now pretend the knife, your finger, point it straight down into your body. That wound is so fucking specific that it tells you more about that crime scene. That's why I've always, and I've lately said, not always, there's no disagreement in my mind that there were more than one perpetrator. No, William Tardy. Are you sitting down, William? Let's address William Tardy. Everybody read his comment because it's a good comment. William, are you sitting down? Okay. I want you to take your index finger and touch your collarbone. I don't care what collarbone you touch. Touch your collarbone. Okay? Are you doing that? I know it's hard to type yes with just one finger, but please reply as quick as you can. Okay. Now, move your finger to the soft tissue behind it, and you'll feel a cavity, very easy to push the skin in. Do you feel that? Hang on a minute, Becky. Let's follow through. I want this. Feel your collarbone. Just behind the collarbone, you feel that soft area? Okay. Now, stand your hand up and point down towards your stomach. That knife must enter your body from a completely vertical fucking position. Not straight into your neck. Straight into your body cavity, brother. Straight in. From sitting position, that knife tip is pointed at your ass and driven into your body with almost little effort because there's no muscle to protect you there. Okay? That wound goes straight in behind your collarbone. You cannot strike that wound, okay, from somebody like Ethan that's tall. You would have to have these people below you, engaged with you. They were sitting up. Cops said it themselves, but they're too fucking stupid to understand how significant that wound is. That wound wasn't a straight punch to the chest. The wound wasn't a straight punch into the neck. They went all the way down 7 inches with that wound from behind the collarbone, straight into the fucking torso, right towards your lungs. Straight in the same direction your neck connects to your body. That's the direction the knife traveled, straight into your body from above. That fucking wound is horrific. That's not an accidental wound. 3 of the 4 victims received it. That indicates 2 things, like I said. A, they knew what they were doing. B, the people that were stabbed that way were in the sitting position. And the reason I conclude that is from research, but also the fact that the only one, oh yeah, K-Bar knife will do that. There's nothing to stop it. There's no ribs to stop it. There's no collarbone to stop it. It's straight in. It's horrible. But listen, the only one that didn't suffer that wound was Zaina. I don't think screamers understand. They hear the words, but they don't understand what they mean because they don't take the time to think it through. William, do you understand that if you're sitting on a bed and I'm standing in front of you and I'm holding you at bay with a knife and there's somebody else there that's got you from behind? Do you understand how significant that wound, what it says about that crime? That's not accident. Not on 3 or 4 of the victims. 3 out of 4. And we know 3 of the 4 victims were killed in bed. We know by that wound that these victims were in the upright position when they received the wound. And you can't be in an upright position and be asleep at the same fucking time. To me, that tells us more about this crime scene than the bullshit about a fucking car. Fog lights, no fog lights. That is a horrible fucking wound. And then once you've penetrated into the body cavity, it's a direct path to the subclavian vein and artery and the nerve pack that wraps that artery, okay? And you bleed out internally. It doesn't come shooting out where the knife is. It fills your lower body, your cavity, your chest. It fills you with your own fucking blood. See, here's the other thing about Zaina. Zaina tells you that when you're on your back and you're struggling and fighting, that isn't a normal place to hit. I just think that they missed key pieces of data. Those key pieces of data especially come from the wounds inflicted. There's also a report of wounds, a 4-inch deep wound, round, in Zaina and in Kaylee. And here, Bill Thompson was in an interview. He said he brought several weapons with him. Well, he didn't make that argument when he had him plead guilty. What killer carries several weapons with him? I don't get it. Where they come up with these fucking conclusions? Because she was on her back, Becky. The biggest reason that Zaina did not receive a subclavian vein or subclavian artery wound was because she was on her back. And it's typically not available to you, even if you're stabbing them in the chest. There's muscle, there's the rib cage. That artery is protected from the front. Can you get it from the back? I'm not sure. I think that there was unconscionable screams. But honestly, I think once the subclavian vein, artery, and that nerve pack are cut, there isn't the capacity for you to scream. The interesting thing about that subclavian artery on the left side of the body is it controls the signals to your vocal cords. I just think that this investigation, whether the guy did it or not, was so shot, bullshit, and fucked up that when you listen to the book writers, when you listen to the investigators that were part of the defense, I think that these investigators, and I include Cyril or even Turvey to some extent, I think that their understanding of what they're looking at and their statements to us, the public, are just short of actual common sense. Short of common sense. All 3 of the people that have come and gotten their noses involved here, whether it be Whitcomb, Turvey, or Cyril, all 3 of them. I think they're definitely their analysis, my thinking on the analysis that they gave, and I read that guy's book many times. I listened to Turvey many times. And although they do make valid points, they do make decent points. I think that the gist of what really would tell you more about who you were looking for came from the actual attacks themselves. You can't hit 3 victims in that area of the body with a knife traveling in that direction by accident. You can't do it while you're struggling with them on the ground. You can't do it from the back. You could slice their throat. You could stab them in the back. But that's a very specific location that has a specific path. And that kind of specificity says that that killer knew what the fuck they were doing. This wasn't their first rodeo. No way can you do that to 3 people. And I also say that I think it was more than one person in that house. I also think, based on the data they've given us, that there were 2 people down in the bottom room and 2 people up in the 3rd floor. And that all 4 of these people were in the house at the same time. I don't have any reason to think that there's less than 4 killers here. I think when you look at the different weapons used, especially on Kaylee, but I think you find different weapons. You also see very shallow wounds in some of them, like someone stuck the tip of their knife into them to get their attention, or to enforce to them the fear that they should be suffering because they're going to get it. I think those shallow wounds tell a story. I think some of the wounds from the back tell a story because they weren't consistent, I think, with the wounds in the front. That tells me that there was somebody behind them and in front of them. Or at least there was people standing in a way they could get to the back, whether it be on their side. I don't know why the girls upstairs had any wounds to their back. That just doesn't seem to make any sense unless there was someone up there with a different knife. And then when you start looking at wounds that are very shallow, 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch deep, that's not a wound from a fucking head-on struggle. Believe that. That is not a wound. I can't tell you how they exited the property, but I just can't see one person committing this crime and striking these wounds in the way they were struck, and the amount of devastation to 2 of the 4 victims. Right? Xana needed it, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that. Xana needed it because she put up a concerted fight. And so, if you and I were fighting for our life, there was no other way, but unfortunately for Xana to suffer what she suffered. However, I think it's completely different with Kaylee. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I don't think it's the simple thing like drugs. I think there's something about that town that's significant, and it was significant enough to take these people out. Somehow, that house, and those people, I think the hair in his hand would have told a lot too. I would have gone a different way with the investigation. I really would have. I wouldn't have just focused on Koberger. I'd have kept Koberger on the radar. I'd have kept somebody following him. I would have put a pen, trap, and trace on him. I actually would have done all of that. I would have seated a grand jury and got warrants issued by a grand jury secretly, which is completely within the law. I wouldn't have done what they did to get him arrested. Lied about where he was, lied about what the car was. I wouldn't have done that at all. Not even close. There was no need for that. I think I tend not to think that the boyfriend was involved. I tend not to think that college students were involved unless the college students were in the know for what was going on. There's something in that town that's unique to that town that we'll probably never know. Whether it's connected to sex trafficking, child trafficking, drug trafficking, and that the people that know what goes on, okay, aren't people that are like you and me. They're people involved in their government and their police force. I don't think Brian Koberger would have waited 2 weeks to leave the state. I mean, how long did he wait to leave the state? Wasn't like he left on the next day. Didn't his father have to fly in or something? Didn't he have to finish? He went to classes the next days. He went and did his job, went to a doctor's appointment. The doctor said he was normal, seemed cheerful, easygoing. There was no reason to suspect, there was no indication of any wounds to him. Brian waited weeks, I think, before he got in his car with his father and took off. Look at it. Brian's involved. I'm not going to say he's not, but I think that there's something more nefarious that they're hiding from us. There's something much more nefarious. I think that if you looked at the entire consequence of information that they're withholding, I think we may all come to some understanding that there's something big that's being hidden there. There's something that would have affected that community in a way that would destroy it. And then the people that are in charge of that community, including potential administrators of the town, potential administrators of the colleges, I mean, to think that that wouldn't happen in America, you got to be out of your goddamn mind. Of course it can, and it does happen, right? Yeah, I would have allowed that. I would have cooperated in any way they'd asked me to cooperate. I always have cooperated with the police, right? Crypto, it could be something tied to that. I don't know. See, that's what I mean. That we can guess all day long, and I'm guessing. I'm taking the data that they've given us, folks, and I'm extrapolating to what I think could be potentially involved there. I'm not. I don't know cops, colleges, drugs, Aryan Nation, fraternities. Boy, I'm not naming any of them. I'm simply saying that my thought of the data is that something is important to that town is more important than the lives of those four people and Brian Kober. This is a big deal for homicides like that. Brutal homicides, not, someone didn't go in there with a claw hammer and go crazy, right? Someone apparently, according to Dylan, looked at her and walked right by her and didn't kill her. One of her statements was, well, maybe he knew me. Maybe they knew me. Or he knew what I mean. The answers you get from the people that were left alive are just incredible. They're so nonsensical. They just don't fit, right? How about she saying she saw a vehicle drive away? She doesn't know if it was a truck or an SUV, but it had teardrop taillights. Think about that. What kind of a vehicle has teardrop headlights? What about the SUV with custom rims that Enon Harsh had seen that by? What about that? What about the argument of that loud vehicle that Mr. Whitcomb makes a point of? The sound of that vehicle starting up, people getting it. I mean, there's just so. Here's the thing: we can extrapolate for forever, and to me, really, the issue here isn't all of the theories. The issue is the investigation. If Brian challenges the investigation, then you'll see me on here all the time. I want to see that court proceeding. I'd like to see the motions. I'd like to see the response from the court. I'd be very, very interested to see how all of that pans out. But as far as whether the grub truck is involved or the neighbor or the boyfriend, I don't know. I think that this case is much bigger than the simplistic theories that a lot of us, and myself included, have considered. I think the lawsuit against WSU is going to fail. If the college doesn't decide to settle just to shut the family up, because that's what I think is going to happen. Yeah. No, but see, this is. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think all of a sudden when he talks about the normal behaviors of that guy Cy Ray, and he adds them up in a way that shows Koberger guilty. What about the fact that that was a party house that had no party on Saturday? How often did that happen? Was that normal not to have Saturday night parties? Was it? Why was the beer pong table set up? What the fuck? Why were those cups on? You mean to tell me? Let me just so you guys get it. Dylan sat in that fucking room eating her potato chips and watching the fucking Vampire Diaries with that table in the way and cups all over the floor. Come on. That's what I mean. The data that they've given to you doesn't add up to the argument they make against Colbert. And I try to stick within the data given us. I don't try to bring in outside data. In other words, I won't. The data about the truck, the data about the car, the data about what Dylan did and didn't do and said and didn't say. I'll stick with that stuff without adding anything. It's hard not to theorize. I got to give you that. It's hard not to. I suffer from the same disease we all suffer from. Okay, we have a disease of entertainment. We crave entertainment 24/7. I don't know why that is. It just is. It's part of being American. I think we're going to entertain ourselves into communism if we're not careful, right? I think the G family. I have a very bad opinion of Steve, and I don't I don't think what he's been doing is justified. I don't think the way he was coming out and saying things he was saying, and now arguing he knew they were untrue, but he wanted Kohlberger to sweat. It's fucking bullshit. I believe he was lied to. I believe this. I believe I know he knows he's lied to. Not even believe. I think that Steve Goncalves knows he's never going to know who killed those kids. And I think the only way he's going to be okay with it is if he wins that WSU lawsuit. Yeah, there was the backpack in the backyard. There wasn't there a backpack in the living room. There was a glove outside. There was all kinds of shit, and they ignored it all to focus on one person. Whether that person was involved or not, it becomes infinitely fucking ridiculous to suggest that one person, especially if you pay attention to the wounds. It's one thing to say you can kill 4 people in 3 minutes. I don't disagree with that. It's another thing to suggest that the specificity of the wounds and the totality of the wounds were done in just a few minutes. That just doesn't happen unless there's more than one person involved. I mean, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I think some of the things Dylan told us are a key to understanding this, too. I think Dylan told us the truth on a few things. Just be aware. I think Dylan isn't lying 100%. I think Dylan made a mistake and said things she probably shouldn't have said. But I think that's why, it may even be why Dylan, no, she said she saw Zaina on the floor, but the policeman got that confused. But when Dylan says that Kaylee come running down the stairs, and then she heard Kaylee in the bathroom crying, and somebody said to her, "It's okay, I'm here to help," I think that's true. I think when Dylan says Kaylee ran upstairs and yelled, "There's someone here," I think that's true. The chain of events are too consistent and in an order that woman wouldn't necessarily be putting anything in order. And now she's saying, because everybody else, and Ann Taylor made the argument, well, we know after the bloodletting, nobody left their room. But I think that I think Ann Taylor and everybody else took that event out of order. I think that the statements about Kaylee are completely accurate. That also suggests that the perpetrators may have been in that house. And I think just be aware. I don't care how I see poor Kaylee and Zane a little differently than I think what most of you think. I think Kaylee and Xana were the 2 people that had info or they may have been the targets. Let me say this. I think in the end they were the targets, but I think that before that they were attacked, their loved ones were under threat. To me, I think that Xana going upstairs, being led or walked upstairs by one of the perpetrators, right? Led her back into Maddie's room. And Maddie was under threat. And then the attack started on Maddie to show Kaylee what she's got coming to her if she doesn't cooperate. This is my thinking. And Kaylee attacked to defend her girl. I think the same situation applies downstairs. I don't think, as these turvies and other guys are saying, that Xana was in the kitchen and ran down that hallway. I think Xana walked down that hallway into a room to which Hunter, right? Not Hunter, Ethan, was held by perpetrators at knife point. And once they struck Ethan, she went into action. And the second perpetrator, just like upstairs, engaged with Xana and engaged with Kaylee. I truly think that that's the actual event of what happened. It makes more sense. It makes more sense why 2 of them received much minor wounds quicker. Right? I think Bethany would have, or Dylan would have been the best witness for Kohlberger. I think all the police would have been. Listen, I said this in the beginning. Go check with DAGO. Everything that they provided on fucking Kohlberger is exculpatory, whether he did it or not. And their investigation itself, based on the way they conducted themselves, And the lies that they used to obtain warrants to continue searching and to go arrest him is exculpatory to Brian. Everything in this case is exculpatory to the defendant. It always was, right from the beginning of the PCA. Who was the best witness? The best witness were the police themselves. I don't know, folks. See, I try to think through different scenarios based on the data that's there, not based on an assumption that because Kaylee was attacked that way, it had to be from a lover. That's not entirely true. It doesn't have to be a lover. I think Kaylee responded to what she saw when she got back up them stairs. I think Zaina responded to what she walked into in that bedroom and trying to defend their loved ones. That to me fits, like it or not. That's how I view the crime scenes. That's why I say the crime scenes had more than one person and there were two in each room. I think that statement, "It's okay, I'm here to help," would have been why she was led back up the stairs. I think statements that actually Dylan made are accurate. I think that when she said, and I think also what Bethany said, she saw fireworks under her door. I think there's truth to that. But they destroyed the house. There's no way to confirm whether that's true or false. You know, that one guy drip dropped, that fucking guy was saying, oh, they had a secret tunnel. I don't think that's entirely true. There may have been a secret place inside that bottom bedroom on the first floor. There may have been a wall that can move or a cabinet that can move or something behind the door. I think that that's particularly possible. If you take what Bethany said, then you have to think, what would cause a view of fireworks under your door? And to me, the only thing that would make that happen inside of any place would be the cutting of metal, a cutting torch cutting into metal. And now you can then tie that to what Dylan said. I thought he was a fireman. He had something on his back, like a vacuum. You could actually say that that's a true statement, but her understanding of what she saw is inaccurate. But connect the sparks downstairs, which is what fireworks do. Fireworks don't just flash. Fireworks spark like a motherfucker. I saw fireworks under my door, and then she saw something on someone's back, or wherever she saw it that was cylindrical. That would be, to me, consistent with a cutting torch. That would fit. Is it right? I don't know. But these are the facts they gave us. Try to make sense of those facts. I can't say for sure that my assessment is accurate, but I think it fits. Well, she heard a pop or a bang, right? That's exactly what happens when a cutting torch lights and goes out, right? I think that they weren't looking for a safe. I think they were looking to just cut through some steel. Could be a door, could be not a safe. I don't think it was a safe, because a safe really isn't attackable by a torch. It would take a significant amount of time to cut through a door with a safe. But I think a door, a steel door that has its own lock, a safe like a gun safe or something small that a torch could cut through. And that also tells you that they would have known that there was something that needed to be retrieved from that house. But again, back up to the fact there's no evidence to support my thought. But if you try to take what they're saying as fact, you have to have an explanation for what would cause a young woman to hear a pop and see fireworks under her door. Fireworks cannot be consistent with gunfire. Gunfire is one flash of light, it's done. Fireworks are a continuous amount of sparks and flashes. It's nowhere near what a gunshot does. It's nowhere near what lights do. Right? No, a taser wouldn't be visible because a taser would be connected to somebody's body. I don't think a taser would be significant. And who are they tasing down there? No. You know, I mean, the taser's a good thought. Let me say that. That's a good thought. But to its relevance to what she's described, I don't think so. Have you ever seen a taser? You put it up against somebody and zap them? The sparks aren't that bright. They're blue. She described what she thought were fireworks flashing under her door. And that's a hell of a statement to make. Could be a complete fucking lie. A cattle prod zaps you once and down you go. But who do they zap down there? Definitely not Bethany. Definitely not Dylan. So why would they go down there? And it's not something you would see under a door typically. So here's what I'm trying to say: is some of the data these girls gave us could potentially hold absolute truth. And if they are true, then how do you explain it? Why did three unfucking marked guys in a minivan go into that house in front of the media and wouldn't answer any questions? It just went in, came out, and drove off. Why did they tear that house down? What was in that house that they had to tear it down? I mean, there's a lot of fucking facts that when you try to sort through them and think for a rational, even for a criminals, there's a rational explanation for why criminals do what they do. You ain't gotta like it. I needed to get high, so I hit her with a fucking bat. You ain't gotta like it, right? But that's a rational thing to do if you gotta take someone out to steal their money. It's still within the realm of rationality. You think it through. So how do you think through the statements that Dylan and Bethany made? No, I hear what you're saying, but the problem with that, Alicia, is to think that, I agree with that. But to think that and not try to make sense of their statements just doesn't, it's not fair. Now you stop thinking and you start believing that everything they said was a lie, right? Is it a lie when Dylan says she doesn't know why, but she looked out the door and she saw a black truck, maybe an SUV, I don't know what it was, but it had teardrop taillights? What is that? I mean, she's basically describing a vehicle that's consistent with the vehicle that fucking Whitcomb writes about. Is that a coincidence? Is that a lie? I don't know. I don't think so. He looked at me and kept going. I don't know. There's a footprint right at the threshold of her door. Not the footprint. That's another lie they made in the PCA. They never really got into detail about that footprint for a long time before we saw it. But that footprint is almost up against her door. And when you look at when they show you crime scene photos, why did the chemical they used for the footprint go out into Dylan's room, but not out into the kitchen? Could somebody explain that? Why did they, we'll call it, there was a name for what they used. Amino black. Why were they spraying Dylan's bedroom floor with amino black from that shoe print? Why weren't they spraying the fucking rest of the hallway? Why would they not consider that shoe print and that they argued was consistent with showing the perpetrator leaving out the back sliding door? They used that as an argument. And yet they found out later that shoe print had nothing to do with the crime scene in as much as their description, because the shoe that made it was found in the home. Now, how fucked up is that? Yet you let everybody believe that shoe print was left by Brian Koberger. We all can be fucking evil, folks. We don't know who any of these survivors are. We don't know who any of the victims are. We can, and that's what I try to do. I try to take the data that is available to us, think it through, and see if there's a way to address sense to it. Look at it. It's almost insane to think that somebody went into a house with a cutting torch. To what end? I mean, why would you do that? Well, there may have been some type of door in that first bedroom that required you to get through with a cutting torch. You know, a lot of people say, well, what, like a padlock? No, I don't think it was a padlock. I don't think it was a padlock. No, I don't think so. I think that door may have had a built-in lock on it. May have been a safe-like device. If they went in there and tried to cut it with a torch. If there was ever any torch. But the torch, you have to consider there was a cutting torch. It fits Bethany's statements, and it fits Dylan's statements. So that's what I mean. When you try to think things through, no, we wouldn't have seen torch marks because the police didn't do anything in that crime scene but protect it. Where are all the rooms in that? Where are all the pictures of that bedroom? Were the bookcases moved? Were there any shelves that were removed? Were there any panels moved? Were there any closet doors removed? Or the floor of a closet? We don't know nothing about that room. But we do know that if you were in there cutting something with a torch, them sparks would be seen. Those sparks aren't going to be just a couple of feet. They're going to flash the whole bottom floor. You're going to see that sparking like a firework. So no, that room, we don't know anything about that room. Yeah, we didn't see anything in detail of that bottle room. Then they knocked the fucking house down, right? And then that goofball drip drop was saying there was a fucking tunnel under there. I don't think that's true, but I think that observation, which I think is ridiculous, and I think the house being torn down proved that. But I think that that did trigger me to think between that stupid statement, Dylan's stupid statement, and Bethany's stupid statement. If you want to make some sense of that, I think there's no other way to go than the way I went with it. Is it real? I don't know. We'll never know. Dylan would say it's like super safe in Moscow. Yeah, why is she looking out the fucking window? I don't know. Yeah, because of that drip drop. Drip drop made the argument. See, there's the door. Oh, fucking drip drop. Crime Circus is his name. Look, I don't investigate individuals. I don't investigate like Pav does and come up with a solution to the crime every other week. I don't do any of that. I don't know that anybody will ever solve this crime. I think really it should kind of be on the back burner for most streamers by now. Only because you gotta wait for more information. And if you're gonna get it, and then you gotta try to sort through it to get it to make sense of some kind. I think there's more pluses to what Lana does than negatives. I have a hard time listening to her sometimes because she plays both sides of the conversation. Like she's Brett Payne and she's the lawyer, and she had a couple of titles on her streams, and I don't see the conclusion she makes being linear. I think that she does a great job on observing things or spotting things and getting FOIAs and keeping things in order. But then even then, when she keeps things in order, sometimes she goes out of order when she shares it with us, and it gets confusing. I like Lana. I like all of these people. I got nothing personal against any of them. I just think the IDAHo 4 should be played out, and there's really very little we can do. I like what Kathy does, Indie Zone. Right, for the most part, she just gives you the data. These are the facts. Maybe they had something of value stored in that home that more than one group of people wanted to access. Well, she's going to be part of the EW lawsuit now, I guess. Yeah, that'd be fine. She does. Listen, I'm not saying she does quite a lot of stuff that's fantastic. I get, I guess like with Pav or what's his name, Birdie and others. It's just too much theorizing outside and saying this guy was here and this one had a white car, and it's just too many theorized conclusions on something that there's no real direct trail to. I mean, if you could see what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to take the data we have and make it make sense. I'm still probably just about as wrong as anybody else, but I have no conscious understanding of who did it. And other than to say, I think this crime was bigger than the 5 people that are victims. One of them being Kohlberger, only in as much as he's been victimized by the law. Whether he did it or not, still one way or the other. He could have, he may not have. I mean, that argument's a fair argument to make, and only time will tell. That's what I mean. I think Birdie has got some kind of background in this stuff. And yeah, I don't know that they were doing it to protect themselves in as much as I think they're just dumb. Kathy Jules. Yeah, I used to be a fan of Jules, but Jules attacked me and called me a conspiracy theorist, like I lied about data when I said that sheet had 3 areas of investigation. I said that within a year because a document was released showing that. And she came out claiming I was making stuff up, that's not true. It was only the button snap, blah, blah, blah. And now go look at the truth. The truth of the matter is it was the button snap. It was inside the loop in the sheet itself. I was right the whole time. I couldn't find the document. But the way she attacked me over that, I just felt like, go fuck yourself. I emailed her directly, demanded an apology. It's just nonsense. Yeah, so, I'm not saying, I think she's a very smart woman, but I think when you attack somebody unjustly, and especially now there's absolute proof that I was completely accurate and I wasn't trying to, and I've never tried to do things to get clicks. Not even my titles. I mean, I just come up with ridiculous titles. I don't give a fuck. I'm not putting question marks and exclamation points and leading into, you know. Yeah, Pav he's always solving the case, right? I think true crime, like anything else, that's what I say. Look, I'm not judging anybody. I think we're entertaining ourselves to death. I'm guilty of the same thing, all right? I'm guilty of the same thing. It'd be very easy for somebody to point out my explanation of what Bethany saw, what Dylan saw, and come to the conclusion I came to. I mean, that does sound kind of fucking crazy. There's no doubt about it. However, if what they said is accurate, there's no reason to say it's not accurate, right? Then we have no proof to deny that their statements are inaccurate. Some of them, yes, clearly you can see that they're telling dishonesty, right? I'm scared to death, but I don't call the cops. Birdie is entertainment. He just he is. Pamela, I think, and that's what I mean. We're so accustomed to being entertained, it's hard to tell the difference. This to some extent is entertaining too. I'm a little bit more dry, and yeah, he's tried everyone in Idaho and Washington, and then some. That it was like that Tommy guy, or who's that? That other person that does all these videos and reflections, and I'm sorry, I just can't. What's her name? Bubbly Waters, right? I mean, that's like your water's bubbly. It's because you're passing gas in the tub. Cut it out. And I agree with Miss Potts. Yeah. See, Miss Potts is another person I get along. I like her mind. Same thing with Kathy from Indie Zone. If they do strike up an opinion, like I've stricken up an opinion, they try to connect it to real information that's available to us. And again, the key word is opinion. I'm not trying to sensationalize it. You don't see me putting the title out there, cutting torch used in Idaho 4. You know how many people would come in to hear that fucking stupid thing? I bet you that if I start coming out with titles like that, right? That's what I mean by entertainment. Just look at their titles. Sometimes I'm drawn in. I can't help myself. And sometimes I'll poke in there, right? But that's what I mean. It is basically, this is entertainment, even what I'm doing. I try to keep it as minimal on entertainment and stay with certain things that I think I reinforce constantly. Our requirement that we should be thinking, not believing. Don't take sides. Don't believe Koberger did it. Don't believe he's innocent. Take the data and see where it leads you. And that may lead you to one side or the other. But beware, more information is to be released. So you have to have an open, flexible mind to accept new information that contradicts what you think. And that's exactly how science works. That's exactly how human information should be reviewed. Just like when they're passing laws, right? What did DAGO do? I don't know. I guess he played music and he got kicked off for a minute. Well, yeah. I mean, as long as the facts are documented data that's providable and then verifiable, I think that's good. That people should review that and think them through. Some of these pieces of information don't make any fucking sense. I think they don't make sense because they are nonsensical. Well, she's in with all them videos on the Banfield and the video, and then I I don't know. I think it leads to accusing a lot of different groups and a lot of different people. And they say that this is for entertainment purposes only. So does Metal Mayhem. Do the same thing with these titles and then these connecting dots and pointing at a certain individual or individuals. And I try very much not to do that because I know for sure that we're not going to solve this with our cell phone. And I'm pretty sure that we're not going to solve this on our desktop. But trying to understand the events that happened in that home based on just the data we have is fair. And you can disagree and think something different about it, right? You could think the images of the car are all the proof you need to show Brian is there. And I think that that's exculpatory right from the moment they started tracking the vehicle heading towards Moscow. That should automatically make you question the validity of the identification of the car. More importantly, let me just say this. This is even more important. Let's say they got the identification of the car correct. Let's call it a 2015 Hyundai Elantra. Let's just say that that's what it is. That on that night, 2 2015 Hyundai Elantras left WSU campus. Then you still don't have Brian Colbert. You see? Because there's no identifying feature of the car around the crime scene that will lead you to Brian Colbert. I don't want to hear about a car fucking on Indian Hills Drive and a fucking car over by some tattoo shop or somewhere down the fucking south. I don't want to hear about that. You're telling me that this 2015 Elantra was directly involved with the murder of these 4 young individuals and that Brian Colbert's car, to identify Brian Colbert. Show me that car has something on that that's unique to that car. A different hubcap, the rim, a dent, a scratch, a fucking parking sticker, right? Something, folks. Otherwise, it's just another white car. And that's the way the law is supposed to work. Not because I want it to work that way, but that's how evidence works. You know, I say this all the time. You could find my gun in your house and a bullet in you, right? And you're dead. That doesn't mean I did it. That's not enough information to convict me. You have to place me in that home in or about the time that you were shot. That's how it works. And now, knowing that, just knowing that, folks, that's why they went to the fucking extremes to lock Koberger in for their fucking killer. That's why there's all these half-ass fucking stories about a car and the way the phone moved. Because the DNA all by itself isn't evidence that Brian Koberger committed the crime. No different than my gun in your home with you dead is evidence that I shot you. This, so you understand, is where real police work is supposed to begin. And they may have got a confession out of Brian Koberger. Right? They may have got a confession out of Brian Koberger had they approached him and caught him off guard. You don't know. I mean, we can't know because they didn't do their job. They could have swabbed the door handles of his car surreptitiously. They could have swabbed the fucking handle of his apartment door surreptitiously and compared that to the knife sheath and connected it to Brian and then had a motive to go get warrants to put a trap and trace on him. It still wouldn't prove he did it. But there's a chronological order that you have to follow in an investigation so that you can go to the next step. They didn't do that. They lied. They misrepresented the information they knew was false. They provided it to a court that signed off on a warrant. That's the catch. That's the catch. When this has always been the problem with this case. That's really what I'm most important about. Although I do wonder, like I said, when you can't read the amount of wounds on these individuals and see the subclavian artery strike and not say to yourself, God damn, 3 of them were hit that way. They all died in their bed. That totally suggests somebody was standing above them while they were sitting on the bed. You know? The Moses boat joke. I don't know if I want to tick too many people off. I got a high number in here. It says I got 84 people in here somehow. Out of 84, you want to listen to me? Poor Jesus. Pour him another drink. Like I said before, anybody's welcome to come up. And I just don't want to theorize that the nephew did it, the boyfriend did it, the Aryan Nation did it, the fucking frat did it, the fucking... I just don't want to... I think you can't support that argument other than... I don't know. I guess it's an opinion, but I don't see any of the evidence in this case. I don't see any of it pointing to anybody, in all fairness. Becky, good night, Becky. That's the other catch-22 to this case. Because of the way it was managed, because of the way they dispersed the information, it is like, who did it? This is one of these, who did it? They've not given us enough information, and the information they gave us framed somebody, but whether he did it or not, the way you came at it was wrong, right? No, I'm not taking it personal. Look, I think all these streamers, you enjoy them, you watch them. I sometimes peek in. I like when new information comes out. I like to see that information. A lot of times I'll turn the volume down on the streamer, and they'll put like Harsh will put documents up, or somebody, even Lana. And unfortunately, the documents they're talking, I'm not even listening to them. I read the document and I wait. La la la, go get coffee, whatever. Brush my teeth, which I do 5 or 10 times a day because I'm a fucking freak. And then I'll come back and read the next document. Or I'll wait for their stream to end and I'll scroll through the stream to get to the documents to read them. That's how I peek in on these streams for the most part. Boom did it. Now we have to have proper language in here, proper English. Well, let's see. There's something up here on the, what is it? Truth and Transparent and Live. Nolan Wells back to Katie and adding the timeline with Warren's third interview. I can't believe they knocked DAGO out of the box. DAGO of all people. I've been on, what's his name? I like Lee. What's the name of his stream there? Oh, the Devil's Advocate. He's got other streams I don't pay any attention to, but Lee and I, there's a couple of points that him and I get. We agree. We're both stuck in the mud. No one coming to pull us out. There's a couple of issues with this case that are just mind-boggling. They shouldn't even be part of the case, but they are. It's just it's extraordinary. Like Hitler saying, well, those people don't have a white car. I mean, that's not for the judge to determine. That's Hitler's. There's not a Hitler. It's that fucking Bill Thompson's bullshit that the car was involved. I refuse to accept that as real. I personally, I think Dylan's identification of the vehicle is the strongest identification of any vehicle involved. Okay? Person went out the back. Look at the timing on her identification. The person walked out through the back door. She's on the phone with Dylan or texting or with Bethany, and then she goes downstairs. She runs downstairs. She sees Xana on the floor, and she goes downstairs and runs into her bedroom and looks out the window, and she sees a black vehicle moving by with teardrop-shaped taillights. That, to me, that's the only identification of an involved vehicle. The closest you're ever going to get is that right there. See, when somebody stacks events in order like that, could they be wrong? Could they be seeing something different? Sure. But let's be clear. Somebody ran down those stairs and ended up in that bathroom to where she heard them say, "It's okay, I'm here to help." That sequence of events is just no different than her running through the common area, okay, looking down the hall and seeing Xana on the floor, and then running downstairs into Bethany's room and looking out the front window. Why'd you look out the window? I just looked out the window and I saw a black truck or a black something, and it had teardrop. And I started looking for vehicles with taillights that may have a teardrop-like shape. And I really didn't have any luck looking. I don't know. I didn't spend a lot of time. But, I mean, that's an interesting comment. And it's got specificity to it. Black vehicle, teardrop taillight. That's not a pickup truck. That's more likely an SUV. Because a pickup truck, there's just no practical way to put a teardrop headlight on or taillight on a fucking pickup truck. But an SUV, yeah. To me, a foreign SUV. To me, it connects with what Enon Harsh has said about a vehicle there. He didn't know that, he knew it was a foreign vehicle. So I think that stuff does kind of daisy chain together. And somebody might want to look in that. Are there a Mercedes or foreign SUVs with teardrop shaped taillights? Are there domestic SUVs with teardrop shaped taillights? I don't know. But that she had said that she remembers it that way is kind of interesting. There you go. See, there you go, Glenn. I mean, and she's talking about a black vehicle. What vehicle was that fucking Wickham talking about? A black SUV, right? Yeah, a vehicle that came back. So it's kind of tricky here. Anyway, folks, how long have I been fucking rattling on, for God's sake, like an old fucking hen? I've been rattling on here for 2 hours and 19 fucking minutes. I suspect I picked up some of DAGO's viewers. Not because I was trying to take his viewers, but, you know. A BMW X5, look from anywhere from 2010 forward. I mean, maybe even a little bit sooner than that, but that would be a good gap of vehicles, 12 years. BMW, I don't know how long they were even made. Yeah, I get along with it. I go up on his stream, but even him and others, I think it's, you know, I think it's quite impossible that so many streamers aren't really understanding when Whitcomb or Turvey or these guys are talking about modus operandi, how none of them joined that knife attack and the specificity of the 3 wounds. That ain't no accident. That ain't no first timer. That person knows what they're doing. I'm sorry. That's unlikely to be a fucking accident. And who was out here trying to? I think it was Cy Ray. Modus operandi, and you look at behaviors and blah 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 blah. I still want Cy Ray to explain what the fuck did these people do? They walk in there and bubble wrap? The fuck were they? Were they like fucking wearing a big marshmallow outfit? Were they wearing one of them fucking things that people go outside and they advertise for companies? What the fuck do these people have on? Because they were covered in blood. There's no way that the striker of those moves, the attacks on those people, no. One person, I don't. The 8-hour delay, all of that stuff. It just you have a hard time. And he says there was no cleanup. I know, because he's talking about footprints. Me, I was sitting here listening to him talk. I wish I could have called into the custody queens and said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean footprints? This guy was showered in blood from both Zana and fucking if you're talking about one perpetrator, Kaylee and Zana, in and of themselves, you would have been you would have been covered with blood on the back of your neck, all over you. Holy fuck! Not the bottoms of your feet. Okay, what about the tops of your fucking feet? What about your ankles? What about your pant cuffs? Come on. How the fuck do you cause that kind of damage and walk out of there blood free? I've been in law enforcement a long time and I've seen it. You'd be surprised how many times that. Yeah. Because somebody walked in and stabbed somebody in the fucking throat and killed them. Or they stabbed them in the fucking heart. And the blood, in the angle of the knife, the blood shot in the different direction of the perpetrator. Yeah, I can see that. I can see you hitting someone over the head with a baseball bat and not getting any blood on you. Very, very unlikely, but very possible. I can see that. I don't disagree with that. But not a dragged out, drawn out fucking knife fight with somebody vehemently opposed to your fucking killing them. No. And that's just another exemplary understanding. If you think this through, the problem with law enforcement, Cy Ray is the problem. He's showing you where they lack any kind of creativity, any kind of thought process. They believe what they're telling you. And that's what makes them sound so authoritative. I don't want to hear what the fuck you believe. I want the evidence to support a truth. Not a truth that you believe, a truth that's undeniable to anybody. And the idea that you're going to tell me there were no footprints in that house is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. The guy could have took his shoes off before he left the room. But then he would have to undress. Unbelievable. He would have dripped blood from Zena's room all the way out the fucking back door. Otherwise, Dylan couldn't have seen a man clad in black wearing a motherfucking mask. You can't have it both ways, Cy Ray. Someone should just take that fucking clip and send it to Cy Ray. An incalculable amount of dumb. The ignorance and the dumb that you can attach to that statement that he made is just literally the Grand Canyon can be turned into a fucking mountain. That's how much dumb he has in that statement. You could fill the Grand Canyon till it's as high as the Mount Everest. That's the kind of dumb in that statement. He could possibly have done that, but the likelihood of one person committing this crime with 4 adults that are awake and 2 that we know are awake that were unharmed is just incredible. It's incredible. This kid makes fucking Bruce Lee and the Japan's best ninjas look like a bunch of fucking schoolyard bullies. I mean, come on. One person, Brian could have been involved. I'm not saying he wasn't. But to do all that he did and to walk down the fucking hallway across the fucking living room and out through a fucking kitchen and only leave a fucking print by Dylan's door? Really? That isn't even his print. So now we have to, now let's take the crime scene as seen. All of the damage in Kaylee's room. All of the blood all over the fucking place. Thrown 10 feet in different directions. Hacking on that girl, beating her with a fucking separate object, stabbing her with different knives, choking her to death. While her face is crushed and bleeding all over. And you walked out of that room, out a hallway, around the corner, down the stairs, turned the corner, down the stairs, and went to Zana's room. Not a drop of fucking blood. That should have been covered in blood. Not to mention what happens once he gets to fucking Kaylee or Zana's room. I would have a field day with a cop like that in the stand. He would have to rethink his life choices when I was done cross-examining that guy. His life, the jury would be laughing. I mean, if you think your cousin Vinny was good, I would have wrecked that guy. I'd have wrecked every single cop that got on that stand. The last thing you wouldn't have slept knowing you were next. Yeah, and if court was postponed for a week, you wouldn't have slept for a fucking week knowing you were next. Because there's nothing these people did that makes any common fucking sense. There's nothing these cops did that logically should have been done to put Brian Kohlberger in jail. These fucking people would be hoping I die so they could dance and piss on my grave when I was done. And I'd be proud of myself down there in a skeletal fucking form laughing up at it. Because what they did in this case is the most egregious fucking level of ignorance that's just mind-boggling. They can't even release the documents according to fucking common sense. You can't even get FOIA requests filled. You get a tape of 40 minutes and 41 minutes of it's redacted. I think Cyree has a place in law enforcement. He should keep his eyes on the book and the fucking data that comes from a cell phone tower. I think Turvey has his place in understanding the evidence. Look at the chain of custody for the fucking sheet. That sheet shouldn't even be allowed. DNA, I don't even think they were going to use the DNA. They were going to come up with some story. What kind of a judge does this? The defense and the prosecution have to get together and agree on a story about how they got to Brian Kohlberger? Really? Really? That's law and order? That's justice? It's a mess, man. The whole fucking case is a fucking radical mess with people that shouldn't have them fucking jobs. All right? That fucking jerk-off fucking Hitler, who in the beginning I was supporting some of his rulings because they were fair. But that changed quickly. Once he saw that Ann had a case against the prosecution, he ended up granting the Franks hearing and then denying anything she argued for. Yeah, he's a bad fucking judge. That guy. He determined Kohlberger was bad and did it. And the other problem with DNA is DNA on every day and Sunday. Yeah, motherfucker, it is. But show that it was put there at the time of the crime by the accused. Where's that? Doesn't that matter anymore? Judge fucking Hitler, you bald-headed fucking prick. Unbelievable. Anyway. So I'm going to end with this. I was in court one time, and I was told by the court that if I did X, Y, or Z, I was going to be held in contempt of court and put in fucking jail for 30 days. And then the next court appearance happened 30 days, 40 days, 20. It happened sometime later. And I went into court with my folder. And at this point, I had fired the lawyer. And I sat down. He said, he opened up, and the other side stood up and made the argument that I did exactly what I was told not to do. And sat down. And the judge asked me a question. I stood up. He says, "Is that true?" I said, "Yeah, it's true." He said, "You were told not to do that. You're going to be held in contempt of court. And I'm going to hold you in contempt of court." I said, "You can hold me in contempt of court all you want." I said, "But what I did is regulated by federal law, not New York Supreme Court. You're the Supreme Court of New York State. The feds are the federal government. And what I did concerned the federal government and my federal rights. And so if you want to hold me in contempt, you hold me in contempt." And he just glared at me. He glared at me and told me to sit down, and then moved on to whatever issues were in the court that day. Didn't hold me in contempt. Knew that if he held me in contempt, he'd be fucked. And you ain't gonna threaten me with the fucking law. You're not gonna threaten to put me in. Go ahead, put me in fucking jail. Just do me a favor so that I can sue you, motherfucker, and win. Because what I filed with the federal court had nothing to do with the state Supreme Court of New York. And they don't like when you're smart enough to do what's right. They don't like when they know that not only what you're doing is right, but it's under fucking law. They don't like when you're smart enough to know that difference. That's what a lawyer's supposed to do for their defendant. Whether the defendant committed the crime or not, that's the lawyer's job. Anyway, 76 watching now. Hello, Regina. I can't say your last name, but I like the name Regina. That's nice. Let's see here. We have Bridge Gentle and Joanne and Glenn. A lot of you in here. Mason Fairchild. Look at that. Lots of people in here. Almost 80 of you. That's awesome. Dags Live disappeared. I know. They gave Dags a good old slapping down. I guess he was playing music. You got to be careful what you say, and that bothers the shit out of me. There's so much I would like to say that I don't say. Because like it or not, I do enjoy being able to come out here and share what's in my crazy brain. And I'm highly respectful of anybody that sits here and listens to me. You guys have got a hell of constitution. How could what be possible? And it looks bad, but a lot of potential. Now some people don't like him. I don't know that he did do it. And if he did do it, I don't think he's going to make an appeal that I didn't do it. His appeal, and it should be filed hopefully in the next month or so. He should be arguing that what they did to him was just against the law. A lot of Hitler's rulings, every warrant that they got, the knife sheath, the DNA, none of that stuff should have been allowed in any trial. None of that stuff should have been held against him to force him into a plea deal, whether he did it or not. The evidence that they collected and the manner in which they collected and presented it is unlawful. That's what he's going to go after him for if he goes after him for anything. And in that respect, if he did do it, and there's a chance he did do it. That's true, but in the appellate process, you find real judges. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys pay attention to politics, but I suggest you pay attention to some of the court cases. Every time Trump writes an executive order, or every time he tries to enforce an immigration law that's on the books, they sue him. And he's won every case. The courts then, they file a nationwide injunction, and then that gets shot down by the appellate court, or it gets shot down by the Supreme Court. These judges think they're fucking God. And that's both privately, publicly, in your community, as well as all the way to the federal government. I mean, they just made a ruling on birthright citizenship that has nothing to do with birthright citizenship. The intent and purpose of that birthright citizenship was for the slaves, right? Yeah, my judge had a problem with me pleading guilty too. But I was animate. I don't care what the witness is going to do or not going to do. I said, those pictures prove I was there. Those pictures prove I was communicating with the teller. And then when you arrested me, you found me with not just the money, but you found me with a dye pack that hadn't exploded. So there's no argument I didn't rob I robbed the bank. That's what I did. And the judge was beside himself. What's he going to do? He said, I'll give you 30 days in jail, $1 bail. If you're still there, we'll figure this out. And that's how I ended up getting off the drugs. I mean, for fuck's sakes, I could have broke a window, but I knew they weren't going to hold me in jail for that. There was a lot of crimes I could have committed to get arrested intentionally, but to me, this is what I mean about people with Asperger's or when you're autistic on that scale. You think of the most likely outcome and the most likely path to get what you're trying to get. And in my situation, that seemed to me at that point in time, the most effective way to get off the street, get away from the drugs, get away from the people that I knew, right? And get a chance to fucking eat and sleep and straighten out. That's why I did it. I didn't do it because I was going to go buy more drugs. I literally robbed a bank and walked into a pizza shop and ordered a pizza and sat down and started eating my pizza because I had no intention of not getting caught. I didn't even know there was a dye pack in the money that I carried out of that bank. Unfortunately for the bank, the dye pack was programmed to if you went out the front door, would have triggered it. But going out the back door, there was nothing to trigger the dye pack. And I'm walking around with money with a dye pack in it. I didn't know. I didn't give a fuck. Literally, I committed that crime to get away from the life that I was in. And it was the best thing I ever did, as crazy as that sounds. But that gave me an opportunity to live, right? And it did. I made the most of it. I mean, I technically could have retired at 55, but I waited to 59. And I've been retired, and I finally just closed out the deal. But I've been retired for a year, and the deal just finally closed out. But I wasn't working, so I consider that still retired. And yeah, I'm living the life of Riley. Hell yeah. And I came from horrific circumstances and did a lot of fucking bad things, and I could have been killed numerous times. And I didn't. None of that. And here I am. And I'll be very honest with you. I don't have any regrets. I did what I did based on the situations I placed myself in. I don't blame anybody. I don't blame the parents or the abuse or whatever happened. I don't blame them for anything. And I realize people do the best they can. And sometimes the best they can is terrible. Look at this case. That's the best Hitler could do. The fucking primary job of a judge is to protect you from constitutional overreach, not convict you, not agree with the prosecution. It's not his job. He has no fucking interest in your guilt or innocence. He should have none. His job is to ensure that the case presented before him, okay, meets the constitutional limits. The case law used to present and argue evidence is case law that's applicable to the argument in front of you. That's his job. It's not to determine guilt or innocence. He has no side. That's why he's like an arbitrator. He's supposed to be in the middle. You're neither guilty or he actually has to see you as innocent because you are innocent until proven guilty. And there's a reason why they say that. That's the reason why, if you think about what I'm telling you, you'll understand that the real job of a judge is everybody brought before him is innocent until proven guilty, beyond a reasonable doubt. And that decision is made by a jury. But it's his job to make sure that the legal arguments brought forward are limited by the Constitution, the government's movements. They can't, in other words, they just can't kick in your door and find cocaine on your table. Yeah, you're a coke dealer. Yeah, you're a coke addict. Yeah, there's coke on your table. But they had no probable cause to enter the property. See, that's what a judge is for. It's to make sure that the government's case brought against you is sufficient and it's supported by law. So, I think people misunderstand judges. I think judges misunderstand themselves. And there you go. See? Regina, we're of the same cloth. And you're a special ed teacher. Yeah. They tried to send me to special ed, but I was too smart for special ed. So they sent me to classes of grades significantly higher than myself. So I think I was in first or second grade, and they sent me to seventh grade science. They couldn't send me to ninth grade science because it was at a different building. And the school I was in had K through 7. And so I was sent to sixth grade, then I was good there, and they sent me to seventh grade science. Yeah, so I wasn't like learning disabled. I was an accelerate. I accelerated learning, understanding. I accelerated making the complicated simple. And I'm happy with my life. If I had another go at it, maybe I would have been a lawyer or a pilot. I always wanted to be a pilot. And you know what? Part of always wanted to be a pilot. Oh no, here we go. This is my significant something. What's up, significant something, Lucy Morningstar? Oh man. Oh man. Look at that. What are you doing up so late, Lucy? Don't you have a curfew? Aren't you, Lucy? Are you married? I mean, what the hell are you doing out at 1:41 in the morning? I know you're on my timeline. We should meet at a Waffle House between the two of us. I've never been to a Waffle House. But here's what I was going to say, folks. We all love Lucy. I would never be married. See, that's the kind of woman that captures my heart because she's not after half of what you own. I like that. Yeah, I would never be married either. But, a guy that can talk this much has something good going for him. If you know what I mean. Yep. You freak, pervert. What are you talking about? Oh, I got to order a new microphone if I ever want to stream again. I was threatened tonight by many of these streamers in the room here. Yeah, sometimes that's the best way to break the habits. Put yourself in a situation where you have no choice. Like I went to jail and I started teaching. They put me in the roughest part of the jail where murderers and rapists were all in this one. They sent me up there, and there were guys up there. Their forearms were bigger than my head. All these guys did is lift weights and do fucking exercises all day. Yeah, killers, drug dealers, crazy people. And I started teaching a group of them how to read. They loved me in that fucking area of the jail. I was the best thing that ever walked into that section of jail. I was the only white guy in there. And there were 15 of us in this holding area. Each in our own little cage. I'd come out of my cage and I'd come out with books and I'd start helping these people learn how to read. Then I started working with, they had a person there that was teaching school. And some of these people really literally have to start out at kindergarten. I got the deputies to agree to allow Hustler magazines and Playboy magazine covers to be brought in. They brought them in. They got approval. And I covered these real basic kindergarten books and Playboy covers. So that these guys, and these guys, they probably could have, flicked me in the head and knocked me out. They were play chess, teach them how to play chess. Some of them were so good at checkers, I wouldn't even play checkers. Had no interest in it because I couldn't win. Yeah, man. Believe it or not, as sad as that sounds, I mean, even though being locked up, I can look back. I enjoyed it then. I became a teacher's assistant in jail. Well, it's similar to Brian Koberger, but not quite on that level of schooling he had. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Let's see, Lucy. I'd never be married. Yeah, that's the last. I appreciate that. All right, what do you got for us, Lucy? Any new documents? Yeah, I know it's fucked up. I can't go to jail and become a teacher. I took my GED, and she's like, "You need to go to these classes. You need to come." I go, "I don't need to come to your classes." She goes, "You need to come to these classes so you can be prepared for the GED." I said, "I'm prepared." So then she holds up an orange. She goes, "If this is the Earth, right?" And she shows the orange spinning. How does it change seasons? I said, "Well, it tilts on its axis." She just looked at me deadpan. It what? I said it tilts on its axis, leans towards the sun, and it tilts back, leans away from the sun. That's how you get summer and winter in the northern and southern hemispheres. She's like, okay. I'm from New York. I'm still in New York. I love New York, but I hate the taxes. I hate the communist governor or the mayor. I hate the governor. These people want to do everything for the crooked criminal and the illegals. Nothing for the working fucking guy. Nothing for the working guy. You could punch your girlfriend in the face and get a fucking no bail in this state. What kind of bullshit is that? Rob under a certain amount of money, no bail. Bullshit. They're on the side of the criminal rather than the side of the everyday working person. Oh, we want to give you free health care. No, you don't. No, you don't. You just want another reason to start taking tax money from a working person so that you can fucking steal it and pay your friends that are connected to the healthcare system. I haven't seen another white person in 3 months. She was from Hooker. Yeah, I used to play a lot of spades. Yeah, we play spades. We play, I can't remember the names of the games. But all right, well, say something, Lucy. What do you got to say for yourself, Lucy? Come on now. Let's see, this her stupid mouse. Open image in new window. My God, your image is, I can't even magnify it. What kind of image is that? What kind of image do you have, Lucy? Jeez. Oh my God. You got the most fucked up non-image I've ever seen. What the hell's wrong with you, woman? Zeta. What does Zeta mean? Z-E-T-A. Am I supposed to know what that means? What the hell does the word Zeta mean? Why does the English language use complete words? Now I gotta Google Zeta. What the hell is that? The AI marketing cloud. AI chat. What the hell is it? So you're an AI? It's the total solar eclipse. William knows what that is. I don't know if you're right. It doesn't say that. It's Greek. Is it? No, you look it up. It's the 6th letter of the Greek alphabet. Z-E-T-A. Oh my God. What do you mean it's the total solar eclipse? How do you guys come up to that? No, it's not the total solar eclipse. Where do you guys come up with that information? What the hell are you talking about? That word does not equal total solar eclipse. The next total solar eclipse will take place August 12, 2016. Greenland, Iceland, and Spain. Total solar eclipse. Nobody calls it Zeta but you two. Jesus Christ. Unbelievable. You two are whacked. Maybe you two should start doing crack or something. You're coming up with these crazy terms. Did anyone get the double star? You got me on a wild goose chase. The image next to your name equals a total solar eclipse. Well, why did you bring the word Zeta up? It's a Greek alphabet letter. You're absolutely right, William. Oh my God, I'm being dumbed down in my own fucking stream. How is that happening? I feel like I don't even know. What the hell is the word I'm looking for? Devolution. I'm de-evolving somehow. You guys have injected something into my mind that's going to make me stupid. I don't know. William is that. All right. Well, okay. William. He's got a W for an avatar. Yikes. Just crazy. All right, folks. It's been wonderful. Kind of an inside joke thing. Well, yeah. Well, now it's out there. It's no longer an inside joke. Everybody, all 73 people watching now are aware of it. Not that anybody's life has been brightened by it or anybody's intelligence has been embraced and lifted by it, but yeah. There you go, Zuzetta. All right. You can all get the hell out of here. You're free to go. Court is dismissed or adjourned.